where it gets critical.
Sun's out, is that good for you this afternoon?
You're on great form this year.
Just drive.
Hamilton's onto the grass, and he's crashed into his teammate. The two Mercedes come together.
It's risky, but that's racing.
A race you do not want to miss.
The following events took place in Azerbaijan 2017.
Pole position for Lewis Hamilton. He wins the Mercedes battle, but it's lights out and away we go. Valtteri Bottas, contact there, Kimi Räikkönen.
Oh no, issue with the engine.
The safety car is coming out. Oh, he went into it.
He brake tested me.
Vettel just turned in and hit me.
The two Force Indians collide, there it is. Big damage.
What did they start to do, guys?
Down the inside goes Daniel Ricciardo. What a move from the Australian.
Okay, Lewis, you've got to box next lap. We need to fix this headrest. We have a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for dangerous driving.
When did I do dangerous driving? That 10-second penalty is not enough for driving behaviour like that.
Daniel Ricciardo wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Just on the line, Bottas gets second. A podium for Lance Stroll.
Good job, mate. Cheers, guys.
Sebastian Vettel has apologised and admitted his guilt over the Baku incident. He had to face a lot of pressing questions from the world's media upon arrival here in Austria, but he took them and showed he wants to put it behind him by being quickest here this morning. For Lewis Hamilton, his weekend compromised by having to take a gearbox penalty, not allegedly caused by any damage from Azerbaijan, a disc failure too today, and the mechanics in a race to get the car ready in time for qualifying. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Austria. As you can see behind me, this is the race going on right now. The front of the car has come off. They're trying to figure out exactly what it was that caused that brake disc failure at the end of P3. Not quite got to the bottom, but they do reckon, though, that they'll have it all sorted by the start of qualifying. Martin Brundle, Damon Hill alongside me. And what could it have been that caused that brake disc failure, do you think, Martin?
Either something touching the brake disc or something within the cooling system failing quite quickly, because normally they can register and monitor the temperatures at all times, of course, from the telemetry. So the disc failed, and it's due to an installation or design of, so I don't think it was finger trouble, but clearly that's an alarm, especially on this track.
It's quite, yes, it's quite alarming. I mean, having your brakes fail, because it's big stops here, isn't it? You're basically got 3 straights joined up by big stops at the end of it, so it's heavy on braking. And the place where it went with Lewis was right at the very end. Here we are coming up to turn 2, and he hits the brakes as he would do normally, and suddenly the right front's gone, and he's had to take the escape road and safely brings it to a stop. But I mean, it's still an alarming thing to happen, and it's interesting. This was earlier. Oh, that was actually when it was happening. Yes, you could see the puff of smoke, and there goes your disc in little bits.
He did well to keep that out of the wall, actually, in the initial phase of that. Well, all the way round, actually. Yeah. Other drivers might not have been able to save that one quite as well. That was good effort.
Yeah, but coupled with the grid penalty, and after his poor luck in Baku, the dust has kind of settled. You just wonder how it affected him coming into the day.
Yeah, he seemed, I mean, there's a number of things he might otherwise feel that he's been unlucky or he's getting undue pressure. I mean, there he was. He had that incident in Baku and got ahead of Vettel because Vettel had the penalty, and then his headrest comes off. So that's one thing that happened. Now he's got a grid penalty. I incorrectly said he's going to start 5th if he starts on pole. He's going to start 6th, of course. But nevertheless, the best he can do is 6th here on the grid, and Vettel's quick, and then he has a brake failure. No, he hasn't had any run.
Just to rub salt into it, Vettel goes quickest. And what we do know, though, coming into the weekend, is that this is brilliant. This is exactly what we wanted from the championship. We needed some needle up the front.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to be on pole. We don't know who's going to win the race. And we don't know who's going to win the World Championship, of course. That 5-place grid drop really annoys me. I'm done with all of this now, because the drive, you know, if a driver crashes in the race or the car breaks down in the race, you can't separate the driver from the car. But these penalties are all about stopping the rich teams just throwing a new gearbox and a new engine on every day. take away some World Championship constructors points, give them pain there, because that's important to them. The money they're going to earn, the kudos of being the champions, and punish the teams when, you know, one little gearbox gremlin and Hamilton's taking all the pain for it.
And also, I think, well, from the fans' point of view, if this is a separate race, it should have a clean sheet. I don't see how the performance on this weekend should be somehow mitigated or compromised because of something happened previously. You know, if Lewis is the quickest, let him start from the front, and, you know, that's what people have come to see.
Well, Baku, unmistakably the flashpoint, the best race of the season so far, and the incident has really polarised opinion. So fed up with arguing with other people, Ted has taken to arguing the case with himself.
I'm really struggling with where to go with this piece. I mean, on the one hand, Vettel was a disgrace, deliberately sideswiping Hamilton, putting both of them in danger. Oh, for heaven's sake. It was 2 weeks ago. Sebastian's apologised. It was slow speed. It wasn't exactly dangerous. Can't we just move on? Not around here, you can't. Thursday's press conference was standing room only.
It's an interesting press conference, as I mentioned, with so many people here.
But the attention was firmly on Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian, you've admitted that you made a foul. Why did it take you so long then to actually apologise? Why did you have to wait until after you'd appeared before an FIA investigation?
I don't have your number. I don't want it.
Sebastian, you're laughing about it now, but would you agree that you've got off quite lightly?
Well, I got a penalty. Obviously, you know, you can believe me that I wasn't happy at all after the race because I finished fourth. I could have won the race, so I don't need to tell you how many points difference that is.
And later, back in the paddock, sorry still seemed to be the hardest word.
The first person to approach is Lewis himself, and I did that. I phoned him up on Monday. We spoke about it, and yeah, tried obviously to fix it. But as I said to him as well, look, it's totally up to you if you're upset about it, and yeah, then that's your decision. I can only say, you know, sorry for what I did. It was stupid.
As a team, Mercedes are trying to keep quiet and say the issue is now closed. It seems no one's told Lewis Hamilton.
My opinion of what happened in this situation, and particularly after the race, I felt like I said everything I needed to say, and my opinion hasn't changed about it. There are some drivers that perhaps are more heated and more vocal in certain ways than others. Yeah, it's sometimes interesting to see.
Yeah, but then there's the issue of the FIA. By accepting Vettel's apology, giving him community service, not taking it to a full tribunal, they just came across as weak. They didn't need to waste everybody's time with a tribunal. Jean Todt, the FIA president, knows how Ferrari works. He just needed to get Vettel to apologise. It's strike 2 now, one more strike and he'll get a ban. Case closed. Hamilton could barely conceal his thoughts on what the FIA did do, which was to order Vettel to attend the FIA Steward Seminar and make him educate young drivers in the lower racing categories, such as F2 and F3. Lewis also suggesting that he'd have preferred Jean Todt answer the media's questions.
Interesting results, obviously, with the FIA's decisions, but there's nothing I can do about that. And I said in press conference that, you know, we had Kevin sitting between us. It should have been Jean, really. You know, as the head of the FIA, it would have been great to have had his opinion up front, and people would be able to ask him questions because they put us in the pit. You know, and it's an opposite position for us to both be in there, and it was the most visited press conference that we've done for a long time.
All right, where do we go from here, right? The case is closed, but Hamilton's now got the upper hand. He knows what Vettel's weakness is, and he's going to prod away with it. And by contrast, surely Vettel's going to be treading on eggshells every time he puts his crash helmet on. No, don't worry about it. He'll be the same as he always is, just with better impulse control. Do you have an anger control issue, or is it just poor impulse control that you've got?
No, I don't think so, but I think, you know, being completely fair, I think, yeah, I should have kept my head together. Obviously, in that moment, I wasn't. Yeah.
You're always looking for weaknesses in someone that you're competing against, and so
you found one now, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know how I can really affect that pressure point, but I mean, my goal is really just to try and win it the right way.
If you do a mistake, I think you need to learn from it. That's the most important. I certainly learned my lesson.
Well, Martin, you said at the time you thought that the penalty, 10-second stop and go, was enough. No further punishment for the FIA. What did you make of that? Do you think that's the right decision?
You could argue about this forever, and we probably will. Half a minute in the sin bin, as it turns out, it didn't give him as much pain as it normally would, due to it being a bit of a crazy race. 3 penalty points, a slap on the wrist. He's clearly, you know, got to be a much better boy than that. I don't want him thrown out of the race. And I've commentated on 1,000 things worse than that particular moment. I've dished out some on the racetrack. I've been on the receiving end of much worse things than that. And in the history of Formula 1, 5 drivers have been actually banned from competing in a race. Some have had suspended bans or whatever. So in the end, I think it's all about right. But there's a bit of me that also says he's a very lucky boy to be racing here.
You disagree with him, though, don't you? I mean, I was with you at the time, and you said, oh, it's black flag.
I think if the stewards have had the courage enough to be able to say, okay, let's say if it's football, right, and the ref blows the whistle, which is we're under safety car, it's sort of basically the game was suspended, and then somebody goes up and kicks the opponent's player's shins or something, he'd get a red card, he'd be sent off, and that would have applied in that situation if they said, okay, you're out, we're not letting that happen, then that would have been, I think, a bit controversial. Punishment, but it's certainly, I think a lot of people have said, well, certainly since the incident, people have said he should have been sent off. Now, given the vitriol that also comes into play there, you know, I think you've got to have the appropriate punishment. And the question is whether or not being black flag would be appropriate punishment. As Martin just said, 10-second stop and go would have been appropriate. He would have suffered, but unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton had his headrest come off.
It's not football, it's not rugby. We are not a road safety campaign support act. We're Formula 1. I don't want to edit out the passion and the spirit. The tracks are sanitised enough, you know. That's my view on it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think there should be a little bit of argy-bargy's okay, but a deliberate...
But you don't agree with him.
I know what Martin's trying to say, because he wants to race, and he wants to see people racing, and we want that too. And sometimes drivers collide. A comparison was drawn between the Villeneuve and Arnoux incident in Dijon. Now, that was racing. They were both giving as good as they got, and they were touching and stuff, but we needed racing permission. This was not about racing permission. This was just simply about venting his anger and not controlling himself and just biffing the other guy just out of frustration. And that is, you've got to say, if you're going to be a Formula 1 racing driver, you're going to be allowed to be driving in these dangerous cars, you've got to have some self-control.
Okay.
But there was no bodily contact, was there? It was tyre to tyre.
But, he could have damaged either car. The race could have continued. Extremely high circuit. They could have had some damage there, and it could have resulted in something worse.
Well, he's apologised. He won't admit that he has anger management issues. Certainly he didn't to you, Ted, did he?
Well, no, he wasn't going to say, yes, I do have anger management problems, was he, Anthony? But let's move on to Lewis Hamilton's latest series of unfortunate events, and that's the gearbox change. So it's the second gearbox of the season. The first one did the first 6 races, and this one, up until yesterday, had done Canada and Baku. And Anthony, why did they need to change it?
Well, I don't know the exact details, but there would have definitely been some kind of damage inside after the race that they saw. And it needed changing, you know. So you wouldn't take the risk just to be, you know, give yourself a front row position to then only fail in the race. You just wouldn't risk that, knowing that you get a 5 grid place penalty, and you've still got, you know, the fastest car out there, or one of the fastest cars. You'll get 6 on the grid, hopefully, or maybe 7th. But you know, you've got to look to the race instead of qualifying. And if there's damage in the gearbox that you know will probably go wrong in the race, then you know you have to finish the race, and, and that's the price you pay.
They're obviously good poker players down at Mercedes, because they gave absolutely nothing away that this was going to happen on Thursday and Friday, the first 2 days of this meeting. The only hint we got, if we'd actually realised it, was when Lewis gave this quote to Craig Slater on Thursday.
As I say, I'm focused on trying to win this weekend. It's going to be a difficult one as things will unfold, but I'm going to give it everything I've got.
It's going to be a difficult one as things unfold. So we weren't to know that that was going to mean a grid penalty. If Ferrari had known that, and we've asked them, and they said they didn't know it before Friday practice, do you think they would have changed anything, the way Ferrari would have gone about their Friday practice, knowing Hamilton, best he can do is 6 on the grid?
Well, they're definitely behind Red Bull then in the secretive stakes, aren't they, of knowing which other teams are doing what, because Red Bull definitely knew about it, as we heard in FP3.
Well, Christian Horner said that, yes, but
maybe he's just saying that.
Maybe he's just saying that, but I've asked Ferrari, and they said that they didn't know about it, and it wouldn't have changed what their program anyway.
And I believe that. I don't think they would have changed. Look, they know that they've got a fast car. They were fastest car today on outright pace, and they're going for pole position, and that wouldn't change whether they're fighting Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas. They want pole position. They want to get the most points possible from Sunday, and to achieve that, you need to be on pole position.
Okay, and just quickly, that word, Bottas, he's got a great chance of pole position. It's going to be an interesting fight between him and Vettel and Raikkonen, you think, for whoever takes the top place on Sunday, regardless of whether Hamilton actually is fastest in qualifying today or not.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we saw that he was a bit compromised in the practice session. He didn't quite get the best out of the car because of traffic. That will be an issue in the first round of qualifying, and it will whittle away as the sessions go on and more cars get knocked out. So Q3 shouldn't really be an issue in terms of traffic, but he certainly didn't put his best time down on the board in qualifying, in pre-practices there. Okay. So yeah, he's going to have a go at qualifying pole, I'm sure.
Great, thanks, Anthony.
Okay, so after it all played out around the streets of Azerbaijan, it meant that Vettel extended his lead by a couple of points to 14 over Lewis Hamilton. Bottas, a terrific drive. We'll have a look at that in a few moments' time. He stays in third. Ricciardo above Kimi Raikkonen. Ricciardo now more than double the points of Max Verstappen, 4 DNFs in the last 6. He's not a happy bunny right now. Lance Stroll is, though, becoming the second youngest to ever get on the podium. And again, we'll hear from him a little bit later in this programme. So, after coming to Austria, Mercedes 24 ahead of Ferrari, Red Bull in a class of their own in third, Force India really missed out on a bigger haul of points in fourth. Good battle between Williams and Toro Rosso, Haas and Renault, and Sauber and McLaren shaping up. So it's a fairly simple track here in Austria, but a couple of tricky corners that Ant's been having a closer look at.
Turn 6 is a crucial corner to get right in qualifying. It's a place where you can really make or break your lap. You have to carry speed into here. But look at this. As you get down to where the driver's eye view is, the corner almost disappears, and it's impossible in the car to anticipate where to turn in. You do it all by feel. You've got the heat haze as well. It's a nice sunny day today. It's another distraction for the drivers, but one thing's for sure, you have to carry the speed into this corner and gain that momentum all the way through it. However, if you do end up carrying too much momentum and being a bit greedy, you can easily end up running out of road on the exit, losing lap time, but more crucially, you can end up damaging your car by running over these curbs like we saw some drivers do last year. And if you get through there unscathed, then another part of the track that can catch you out, like we've been seeing, is turn 9. This was yesterday, Carlos Sainz going through there. And he gets it wrong, the rear steps out over the yellow curbs, and then this happens. The car kind of rechecks itself as he tries to rejoin the circuit. I'll just slow that down for you. It looks like this curb is actually catching the car. I'll just rewind that and pause it so you can take a closer look. And what it is, it's this green curb where the gutter kind of meets the concrete, then the grass. And that kind of rechecks the car, like I say. And that could have been a nasty situation. So the officials looked at that, and they made some changes overnight. And now we can see in this position, the green curb has been added after the gutter, but the yellow curbs, more crucially, remain. So yes, it's true that you need some kind of deterrent for the drivers to not run wide, and that's the yellow curb. But rejoining in the track, I think they thought that was a bit too far. So they made the changes. We saw Grosjean run wide there as well yesterday. And this is a good example of how, if you get it wrong and choose the wrong place to rejoin the track over those yellow curbs, that it can actually launch the car. And that did quite a lot of damage to the Haas and also on Max Verstappen as well. And then today, Daniel Ricciardo. So as the drivers are learning or relearning this track again, he decides to rejoin just before the yellow curb there on the left-hand side. So it's a corner where it can definitely catch you out, like turn 6, and you've got to get it right in qualifying and try not to damage your car as well.
You think the right changes made to the racetrack, those curves were causing havoc?
You heard me yesterday when I was out on track, reporting back to the comm box. I've never seen so much energy going into a Formula 1 car, actually, as that last corner. The vibration on the curbs on the way in, then they go through a compression, one part or another of the car hits the ground, and then massive vibration on the way out. The cars are taking a pounding, and so the frequency and with the wheelbase of the car is obviously really uncomfortable because it's sort of shaking the car to bits.
Yeah, it's a bit brutal, but I mean, so is the barriers in Monaco.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is always given, we'll stay off the curbs. So they've always got this problem with race cars, is trying to decide how much they stop them from going into the grass, because anything you give them, they'll take. So they increase the runoff there and make it smoother. The problem with the Saints one was that when he tried to come back onto the track, his bottom of his tub hit the edge of the curb and he couldn't get back on the track. It basically just pointed him towards the barriers.
The issues in the past here have been very much in qualifying, haven't they, about the final corner here and making sure that the drivers observe the track limits. Do you think they'll be quite tight on that today?
I hope so. The cars have got more downforce, more grip this year. It seems as if as long as they don't lose it coming out of turn 9 and completely get it wrong in 10, because they follow one another very closely, then they seem like they can actually stay within track limits not too badly. But you have to go on the curbs, unfortunately, because somebody will, and their car will hang together. And if you're not using those curbs, you might as well go home, mightn't you? That's the trouble. So it's a
serious tricky one.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to hopefully hear from Christian Horner. We'll definitely hear from Zach Brown. And for that man, Valtteri Bottas. Quite a race for him a fortnight ago. Welcome back. It's been a busy old week or so in the life of McLaren, in which Ron Dennis has eventually waved goodbye. You've merged the group all together again. Zach Brown, the boss, is alongside us right now. Firstly, talk us through how the Ron situation played out.
Yeah, it all, I think, played out according to plan. You know, Ron said if he wasn't going to be running the place, he'd done his 37-plus years and did an unbelievable job. And now we've brought the companies back together, and Sheikh Mohammed's our executive chairman, executive committee, giving us a lot of good direction, and it's all good. Exciting times ahead.
We read about some debt refinancing. Take us through that. What's it going to mean for the team moving forward, and any other complications it adds, like Williams are quoted, of course, in Singapore?
Yeah, it's actually just normal kind of course of business, you know, raising a bond, which has been reported, bringing the companies together. Ron's getting bought out. We're going to put some more investment into our technology group, into the Formula 1 team. So we've got more enthusiasm and investment going into our building our company than ever before.
Does it free up some cash, Zach, to give you more freedom with your decisions? And I'm talking with engine manufacturers moving forward.
Well, it frees us up to make decisions for the racing team, whether it's drivers. We've got one driver that makes a good clip of change, engine situation, sponsors. So it ultimately just gives us flexibility to make a variety of decisions.
When do you think those decisions will be made on engines for the future?
Well, you know, we need to have a competitive engine, and it's good to see we've got a little bit more competitiveness here this weekend, but ultimately we're going to start designing, well, we have started designing our 2018 car, but it can't get too far along without knowing exactly what we're going to do. So
is this too little, too late? Sorry, Zach, is this too little, too late from Honda, as far as you're concerned, the improvements you've seen from the Spec 3 car?
No. We think they can turn it around. We hope they can turn it around, and they're doing a lot of work to try and turn it around. So we're going to work with them as quickly as possible to get in a situation where we feel we can be good for 2018.
So you're pretty fluid with drivers. Obviously, Fernando's made it clear he's going to wait and see what happens and maybe what he can get elsewhere. Stoffel will be in the car next year, definitely?
Yeah, we're happy with Stoffel. You know, he's in a difficult situation going up against Fernando Alonso, and then the lack of reliability. Fernando can adapt to issues quicker than Stoffel because he's not been to a lot of these tracks. So we think he's a future world champion, and we don't expect any change there.
And what about with regards to Eric? I know that he's been very vocal about his feelings of what should happen going forward, and perhaps maybe moving on to fresh pastures with the engine situation. I mean, how do you manage that? How much heed do you take from him? How does it all work? Who's going to final decision lays with you or with the board?
Yeah, Eric's a racer.
Yeah.
And he's sitting up on the pit wall every race, and he wants to win as we all do. So, he's at all 20 races, so he gets caught in the heat of the battle, and you know, motor racing's in an emotional, passionate, and it gets your feelings going. So he's doing a really good job. Team's morale is really high, and everyone's excited about us coming together. So I like what we're doing. We just need to, you know, make some improvements.
Are you doing a crash course in German for any future engine choices by chance?
All I know how to say in German is Hockenheim and Schumacher.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your time, appreciate your honesty, as always. Go well today. Well, much thought the chaos a fortnight ago in Baku. What a drive by Valtteri Bottas from plumb last up into second, and he went through it at the Skypad with Ant.
Well, Valtteri, you had a cracking race in Baku. It was full of ups and downs. Talk us through your experiences there. Here we are at the start.
Quite a race indeed. So here, turn one going, yeah, the start was good for me and Lewis both. Had a bit of a log up there. The grip felt really low. I had quite a big snap over there, so the exit out of turn one was poor. That's why, you know, I was not that comfortable for the braking point into turn two, and that allowed Kimi to try and go outside.
Yeah, we saw the contact there between the two cars. Yeah, just talk us through that. I think it's going to go for the onboard now.
Yes, so here you can see I move inside to try and prevent Kimi. I brake earlier than him, he goes outside, and I'm going over the curb, bottom out, and just can't really turn the car.
So it's really going into that corner. I mean, you know, you had every right, in my opinion, you had every right to be there. You didn't have to back out. That's what a racing driver does. So, you know, you got a significant part of your car alongside. And Kimi is trying to give room, but the only room you have is the curb. And I think neither of you knew what was going to happen by getting beached on the curb.
Exactly. You know, without the curb, I think would have been all fine. But for me, backing off at that point, it was not an option. So I think quite unlucky again that me and Kimi, you know, we've been in contact a few times.
What is it about that, you know?
But it's just unlucky, you know.
There's only 5 million of you in your country, and you two keep finding each other on the track.
Yeah.
Here's when you rejoined, fresh tyres on, but you had Sainz behind you and the blue flags, but you took the decision not to let him by because you obviously knew you had the fast car.
Yes, I knew we have quite a bit more pace than them. Obviously, getting the soft tyre warmed up, it took half a lap, 1 lap, so I knew that it's going to be a bit of a struggle, and on the limit within the rules.
He was weaving around trying to show him.
You know, I kind of felt sorry for him keeping it behind, but you know, after 3/4 of the lap, then I was trying to pull away, and that was fine.
So then we had the fight back through the field. I bet you couldn't believe at this stage that that the race had turned the way it did, and you had Ocon in front, and in front of him Magnussen, and this really was the first proper demonstration of how significant the tow was down this long straight.
It is with these cars. The tow effect is quite a bit bigger than before, and yeah, it is quite a long DRS zone as well. So just always trying to get nice tow, use all the power you can, you know, from the battery.
And then that late braking move down the inside into turn one.
Yeah, one of the overtakes there. So really enjoyed that comeback, really.
Yeah, after that mega comeback, then you had Stroll in front. Turn 16, you knew this. What was going through your mind at this stage? Did you think, it's so close but not quite, or did you still hope?
I was hoping all the time. I was hoping for the last 10 laps, and I was really trying to find every single lap time I could, really.
Yeah.
And at this point, I could feel that now the tow is really starting to affect. And I was in the DRS zone, managed to open up the DRS, used all the engine left, and just about enough.
So I was going to ask, you know, so you used everything you had from the engine to give you that extra bit down the straight.
Exactly. All the mode allowance we had, really, and all the energy there was left in the battery.
It was all used. It was a real lesson in never giving up. And I read somewhere, someone from Finland said, in Finland this is what we call sisu.
Yeah.
What is sisu?
Never giving up, basically.
Just never giving up.
Well, basically, yes. So I think it is a good example for me for the future. You know, if I have a tough turn 1 or lap 1, always need to keep going and keep the head down, and also for us as a team.
Well, hopefully you have a bit more of a smoother race this time, you know, with a great result as well. So, yeah, best of luck this weekend, Valtteri.
Cheers.
Hello, good afternoon from the pit lane, which is considerably warmer than this morning. It's up to 29 degrees. I'm outside Fernando Alonso's garage. A bit of news on him, and it's a bit of a broken record because it's a change for power unit for Fernando overnight. All components of the engine have been used before, so they won't be incurring any penalties, but it's going back to a number 2 spec Spec 2 engine that was used in Baku. So not the Spec 3, the more developed, upgraded engine that his teammate will be using this weekend. And I must tell you, I'm regretting wearing a floral top because there are enormous flying beetle-type things in the pit lane. They keep landing on me. They think I'm some sort of flower bed. Let's hope they don't get sucked into one of these brake ducts. Could be messy.
Be careful, Nats. Right, we must at this point just talk about Silverstone because they've got an option, haven't they? They've got a very big decision to make prior to the British Grand Prix, and that is whether to exercise their brake clause at the end of 2019. Yep. Now, you were part of that deal that the BRDC did with Bernie back in the day. It was for 17 years at the time. Did you feel you were being slightly done at the time?
Anytime anyone wants to come to the party and have a race and have a Grand Prix in Formula 1, especially when Bernie was there, they're going to have to do their sums. And the sums said we could just about do it, given a fair wind, given all the other parameters. It's always a gamble. Every promoter who enters into having a Formula 1 race is taking a gamble. Now, to say that we're looking forward, or the Silverstone are looking forward and saying, okay, we can't see how this is going to work unless we get a better deal. So maybe it's part of the negotiation strategy.
I mean, let's face it, it was the 5% annual escalator that has cost them, because it started off, didn't it, at 12 million. It's now 16.9 million. By 2027, it will be up at 27.5 million per race. Now, that's fine, I suppose, if you're an authoritarian government, but not if you're a business trying to make money. It's quite hard.
We're all between rock and a hard place now on the British Grand Prix. Yes, you can't get 5% more people in every year. You can't put the prices up 5% every year. They're already toppy, to say the least. So it's in a difficult position. There was too much money spent on the wing, on the new pit and paddock, which I think was where the financial hurt really started. But the deal is unsustainable, as so many of them are. But Liberty won't renegotiate. They can't, because I happen to know they've already got Grand Prix going to them. They haven't even had their first race under a new contract saying, we want to renegotiate. So if they renegotiate for Silverstone, and this is the rock, then they've got to renegotiate all of their other fees. The hard place is the people making the decisions at Silverstone can't just sail the ship into the rocks. If they know the numbers won't add up, they're going to have to trigger the brake clause. The annoying thing for me is there's only a few million, £2 or £3 million would make the difference, but it can't be found at the moment. And the government, I would say, I mean, and I was on the board for 9 years, their chairman for 3 years. If ever I've seen a situation where the government cannot be in a position to help Silverstone out, I would say it's right now.
I mean, they can't be in a position.
Well, won't.
Oh, they won't.
Do you think the government at the moment fancy dipping in their pockets and helping Silverstone out? That's not going to happen.
I think Bernie was always frustrated that money would go to the Olympics, and it is a national event, but then we can't have it both ways. You know, it is also, it's got to make some commercial sense. So everyone coming and putting on an event has to make the beans add up at the end of the day. Now, and you've made the key point, which is you're only talking about a few pounds really in the scheme of things, because it's so marginal. It really is that fine. If it swings, you know, you get interest rate drop it a change, or you get exchange rate change or whatever, a tiny amount, then the game's on or it's off.
Yeah.
An idea I had when there was a VAT holiday or reduction in VAT, because if the Grand Prix falls over, there'll be no tax being collected. But it just seemed like a very sensible way to bridge that 3 or 4 million. But no was the answer to that one.
I think they should sit down with the new owners of Formula 1 and say, listen, this is a great asset to you. You cannot afford to lose it. Help us make the money and make credible.
Very sad if it was to be the end, huh?
The end of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. There are 2 London venues that are credible as an alternative. Whether they're viable or not is another matter.
Docklands one? Docklands?
There is.
One of them. Okay, all right. Fair enough. Alas, Christian has been waylaid, plenty to do, obviously in the build-up to qualifying here in Austria. When we come back, though, we'll talk to Lance Stroll. What a great race he had in Baku.
A podium for Lance Stroll!
The trajectory is very good, isn't it? For the rest of the season, where do you think it's going to end up?
Well, I think now we should just be aiming for podiums every race.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. We're just a few minutes away from qualifying, so let's give you a little update as to how everybody are doing. Well, Valtteri Bottas at Mercedes, ready to go. Lewis Hamilton, ready to go as well. We can have a look at the new front right brake disc. So these are Carbon Industry brake discs and pads, but it wasn't actually Carbon Industry's fault. It was Mercedes' fault with the way that they were working that brake that led to Hamilton's problem in free practice 3. But there you go, you can see a brand new disc on there, brand new pads. He's all ready to go. Let's give you an update on the Red Bull cars as well. We have had to have a new MGUH, that's new motor generator unit, part of the hybrid system that runs off the turbo in both Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo's cars this morning. But as you can see, a fair bit of work going on there as well. Daniel Ricciardo's car isn't here, that's not a problem, it's just down at the weighbridge, making sure that all the bits satisfy scrutineering. That's okay as well. Ferrari, they are ready to go as well, and I'll just give you a few details on some others in the midfield. Jolyon Palmer had a very difficult day on Friday. He lost a lot of track time. He was actually well down in free practice 3, what would be in the drop zone if we were in Q1, but that was because he got traffic on his fastest lap. So Jolyon Palmer in the Renault, hoping for a better qualifying session, thinking it's going to be up to within where Nico Hülkenberg normally is. Carlos Sainz, he had a problem, electrical problem in free practice 3, but he's back and he's feeling good for qualifying. He's going to get very close, he thinks, to Danny Kvyat, his teammate, after a reboot. And just finally, Simon, a thought on how close it's going to be. We saw in free practice that 0.2 of a second can be up to 10 places on the grid. It's going to be that tight.
Thanks, Ed. Now, undoubtedly, driver of the day a fortnight ago in Baku was the teenager Lance Stroll, the second youngest ever to make it onto the podium in only his 7th outing. And earlier this week, he sat down with Damon to talk about it.
You're a man in demand at the moment. Have you been resting on your laurels since Baku?
I embraced the moment. It was a very special day, and yeah, it was a very special week after the race. I mean, just the emotion sinking in. I think we expected some points if we'd have a clean day, but a podium was not really in my thoughts anyways. But it was just a fantastic day. It was a great race for the fans. Everyone really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and yeah, my whole family, you know, everyone was just so happy for me and all my friends and all my fans. I think it's a great day for the Strolls.
Timing's everything in this game, and you certainly timed it to perfection. The last 2 results you've had have been right on cue, because the pressure was building a bit there, wasn't it?
I think the worst thing I could have done was panicked, because I knew in the back of my mind there was a bit of bad luck. In my first couple of races, and then in Canada when I scored points, it obviously felt great. And in Baku all weekend, I was on the pace, and I just felt comfortable with the track, the car, and I was able to go out and deliver results.
You found some things with the car that you like?
In Baku, we went back to the old setup, which is what Felipe uses, and just felt a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. And I mean, I hope that's not a one race. Feeling. I hope it carries on for the rest of the season, but I think it's a team effort. You know, the car, myself, everything falling into place.
I mean, you're still very young. Did you ever have moments where you thought this F1 thing's a bit daunting?
I never doubted myself, because I knew, and I always believed in this, the process, experience and learning from your mistakes and then improving on those mistakes. So I never doubted that I'd get there one day.
Does it give you extra motivation to prove people wrong?
My motivation doesn't change, whether good days, bad days. I go by commitment, and then motivation follows. So I commit to something, and that's what motivates me every day, not what people say. There'll be a lot of hurdles in the way, and I'll jump over them, and that's how I go about my business.
Well, the trajectory is very good, isn't it? Where do you think it's going to end up?
Well, I think now we should just be aiming for podiums every race. No, I think we need to be realistic. I mean, it was a podium. It was fantastic, but we can't compete with Ferraris and Red Bulls and Mercedes at the moment. So we need to get the maximum out of where we are today. And as a team, I think that's about scoring you know, the P7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. I think we just have to focus, you know, on the process, and you know, that's session by session, race by race. And I don't see why we can't, you know, pick up, you know, some good points every weekend. Of course, there'll be good weekends, there'll be bad weekends, because that's racing. But I think, you know, in Baku, I proved to myself, you know, the team that you know, we can do it. And now it's just about getting through the weekends, you know, getting through the bad ones, enjoying the good ones, and it's a long year.
And I'm delighted to say that Claire Williams is alongside, soon-to-be movie star Claire Williams is alongside.
Shush, behave yourself. Don't
Tuesday,
say that. It's out Tuesday. I'm getting a bit nervous now. It was quite nice when it was quite a quiet project that I just got to see by myself, and now everyone's going to watch it.
What part do you play? Oh, yourself?
Myself. I do play myself. Yeah, funny enough.
I'm looking forward to that coming along on Tuesday.
Good.
Yeah, look, obviously, lovely interview with Damon there for Lance. How big a moment for him, for the team, for everyone involved with this young man's career a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, it was, sorry, you're talking about Azerbaijan when we got, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Sorry.
You've got baby ears as well as baby brain at the moment. No, it was fantastic. I was at home, I missed it, but there was a lot of screaming going on my sofa. It was great, and, you know, just for him, I think it was real vindication after having had quite a lot of criticism levelled at him over, you know, the early part of the season, which we all felt was very unfair. We said we wanted to see progress from Lance in his first career in Formula 1, and I think we've seen that, and he's demonstrated it. He got the points in Canada, and then he got that wonderful podium in Azerbaijan, and not many rookies can say that in their first year in Formula 1.
And Claire, also the pressure's also on the team and people who make the decisions about the drivers, because you're thinking always of the future. I mean, is Lance, you know, you see him as a long-term part of the future of Williams?
Yeah, of course we would. You know, we've said, as I said, you want the progression from him, and he's demonstrated that. He's also demonstrated so many other qualities as well that you want in a driver. He's a really good all-rounder for us. You know, he's handled this pressure that he's had placed on his shoulders with real aplomb and grace and good style. He's just taken it and, you know, and just let his on-track performance deliver and do the talking for him. And that's what we like in our drivers as well. So as long as he keeps doing what he's doing and keeps making progress, then why wouldn't we want to keep him in our team moving forward into the future?
And what of Felipe? I mean, he said, why not? Another season, if you can, bring it on. You'd be happy to keep him?
Everyone's very interested in drivers at the moment,
aren't they?
It's summer,
isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, it's so early for us in the season. We started talking about our drivers very early last year, and I think we want to take a bit more time this year going into 2018 and what our lineup will look like. And why don't we talk about Carlos Sainz or Fernando to distract you for a little bit, I think.
All right, fair enough.
You're thinking of them, are you?
No, just...
Oh, you have to be so careful, Claire, what you say.
Yeah, I know, that's showing me headlines next, aren't there?
Absolutely. What about here? I mean, traditionally, as you say, he had a front row lockout in 2014. It's a track you go well at. We're not seeing too much evidence of the pace so far this weekend, and both of your drivers complaining about balance. What's going on?
Yeah, it's disappointing to see, actually, because particularly off a race weekend like Azerbaijan, where we had a great race, and, you know, who knows where Felipe would have ended up if he didn't have the problem that he did. And so I think we came into this weekend quite hopeful, and like you say, it's a circuit that should really suit our car. It has in the past. We've had some good results here with the front row lockout, like you said. So I'm not quite sure what exactly is going on. Both drivers are complaining of pretty much the same issue, that the balance just isn't there in the car, and you saw what went on in P3 this morning. We've got this upgrade package. I think probably the balance issues are masking what, you know, maybe performance we could have extracted from that. We just have to wait and see what happens in qualifying. I just hope we're not out in Q1 today, because that wouldn't be good.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you very much.
Go well today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just about set then. A few moments away from qualifying here in the Austrian hills, who will be yodeling loudest in qualifying. Plenty of Max Verstappen fans have made the short trip from Holland to Austria, hoping it go well at Red Bull's home race. Mercedes and Ferrari standing in the way. Remember, Lewis Hamilton with a grid penalty, though. It's qualifying here in Austria.
The following events took place in Azerbaijan, 2017.
Pole position for Lewis Hamilton. He wins the Mercedes battle, but it's lights out and away we go. Valtteri Bottas, contact there, Kimi Räikkönen.
Oh no, issue with the engine.
The safety car is coming out. Oh, he went into it.
He brake tested me.
Vettel just turned in and hit me.
The two Force Indians collide. There it is. Big damage.
What did I do right?
Down the inside goes Daniel Ricciardo. What a move from the Australian.
Okay, Lewis, you got to box next lap. We need to fix this headrest. We have a 10-second stop and go penalty for dangerous driving.
When did I do dangerous driving? That 10-second penalty is not enough for driving baby like that.
Daniel Ricciardo wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Just on the line, Bottas gets second. A podium for Lance Stroll.
Good job, mate. Cheers, guys.
Let's hope the latest instalment is as exciting as Baku a fortnight ago. Commentary comes from Martin Brundle and David Croft.
Well, whatever happens in the qualifying hour today, we are in store for the shortest overall lap time of the season this weekend. Welcome along to Spielberg for the 30th Formula 1 World Championship Austrian Grand Prix. It is qualifying day ahead of round 90 out of 9 out of 20 in 2017. Might feel like we've had 90 races so far. The excitement's been enough for 90 races, but we're almost at the halfway point of the season. And this qualifying session takes place on a lap of 2.68 miles, only 10 corners, 3 to the left and 7 to the right. And we are at altitude, the second highest altitude track of the season. 2 DRS zones, speeds in excess of 200 miles an hour. It's a gorgeous place to camp out for the weekend, but who's going to park their car on pole today? One thing's for sure, it won't be Lewis Hamilton. If he wins qualifying, he'll start 6th on the grid with that 5-place grid penalty for changing his gearbox. So, all to play for, Martin Brundle.
Indeed, it may number 10 in terms of corners, but really only 7 of them count as something the driver has to do. 3 of them are just cruising through at full throttle, and they need to get them all right. So they're going to need some clear air, and they have to push the limits, particularly through the penultimate corner, and chance everything. And if they run a little bit wide, they're in desperate trouble then for the rest of the lap. So last year, fastest lap we saw was a 1 minute 6.228. That is going to be absolutely smashed with these grippier, faster 2017 Formula 1 cars, and the drivers carrying some pretty good speed through the corners. It's massively impressive out there in the penultimate corner again, before they sweep down the hill. And in the last corner, I don't think I've ever seen a Formula 1 car taking so much punishment on a normal lap. On the curbs, on the way in, huge vibrations and a lot of frequency going through the cars. Then they hit the ground in a divot sort of in the apex of the corner, and then a big curb on the outside again, and the car's really working hard, and the drivers have to push their luck. They cannot afford to leave that amount of time on the table.
Packs rather a lot into a very small space.
It does indeed.
The Red Bull Ring. And talking of packing things in, round about 10,000 Dutch fans have descended on Spielberg to cheer on one man and one man only, Max Verstappen, who's out-qualified his teammate Daniel Ricciardo in recent races, in the last 3 races, and Ricciardo saying, look, there's absolutely no excuse for what's going on there. I think this is quite a big qualifying session for him today.
Yeah, he needs a good quali, but he can rest one elbow on his winner's trophy, can't he, from Baku and think, but it's not going too badly. But unfortunately for Verstappen, he's not getting a chance of a winner's trophy because his car's let him down 4 of the last 6 races.
That's right. Frustration all around. Felipe Massa has been on pole here for Williams, a front row lockout for the team back in 2014, and Felipe Massa's only pole in his last 153 starts. Some inter-team battles to point out to you at Toro Rosso, Fiat and Sainz, and at Haas, Grosjean and Magnussen level at 4 apiece. Lewis Hamilton leads Valtteri Bottas 5-3, Verstappen 5-3 against Ricciardo. Kimi Raikkonen's got a bit to do at Ferrari, as has Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll at Force India and Williams respectively, and they have Austrian sponsors at Force India, hence the abundance of pink flags. I'm not sure the pink really goes with the orange, but wherever you sit around here, you're almost next to a Dutch fan, whether you like it or not.
Perez 7-1 against Ocon was a bit of a surprise. When you look at those in raw numbers, 7-0 for Alonso, as we saw. And yeah, a little bit of work to do, as you say, for some of these drivers in qualifying. Lewis looking pretty relaxed, it must be said, but he'll need to grab provisional pole so he minimises the pain for what is a very painful gearbox penalty, where he's going to drop 5, and that is getting increasingly frustrating these days.
I suppose he'll take a bit of comfort from the fact that statistically pole is not always as important here as at other tracks. 4 times in the 10 races here, pole position has won. I think that third on the grid has won as many races as pole at the Red Bull Ring. So there are tracks it would have been more severe, but you never like to lose 5 places when it's not your fault, I'm sure. Qualifying pointers come from Mark Hughes of Motorsport Magazine. He says the temptation to run super soft tyre rather than the ultra soft in Q2 for the faster cars will be tempered by the poorer acceleration off the grid. The ultra soft will get away a lot faster. Qualifying position of Raikkonen relative to Hamilton's penalised slot could enable Ferrari to run the race tactically as a team, and that could be a big benefit to the Scuderia. And a lack of qualifying mode might see McLaren struggle to match its promising competitiveness of Friday practice. Both Alonso and Van Dorn looked a lot better in practice yesterday, but Fernando Alonso has gone back to the Spec 2 engine that he has run at previous races, not the Spec 3 that Honda had brought in here. The light is green. Magnussen, Grosjean, Sainz, Ericsson and Wehrlein are out on the track. Somewhere skulking around at the back of the pit lane is Ted Kravitz.
Hello, Crofty. Hello, Martin. Hello, everybody. Yes, the Ferraris just passed me out on the slower red stripe super soft tyres rather than the purple ultra soft tyres. Such is the way they tend to run these free practice 1 sessions, saving a set of ultra softs for a bit later. There is Raikkonen doing exactly the same as Vettel on the red stripe super soft tyres. So we'll get on to tyres later, but a few teams on their back foot. McLaren, as you said, Fernando Alonso. There is a difference in the engines, McLaren say, Crofty, but not a huge one between Van Dorn and Alonso. Saubers as well. Sergio Perez has been disappointing so far. He missed FP1 because the test driver was in the car, and part of FP2, but the team say that he should be okay. McLaren, as we say, looking a little bit on their back foot. And Williams also, Crofty, after a difficult yesterday, just recovering some pace. But they're all going out, and there'll be some more teams in this very short pit lane, Crofty. I think it's about 250 metres. I'm a good judge of meters.
Save the leather on your sandals then?
Yeah, it's certainly not 800 metres or 1,500 metres, Crofty, as some people don't know the difference between those two.
Yes, thank you, Ted.
Williams have been struggling, haven't they? The back end of the car just not sticking at all. So a track where we thought they might go very well again. We'll see how they do in qualifying. But once again, it's just like when I was out on track yesterday, Crofty. Do you remember me saying the Haas seems to take 3 bites at getting through a corner? The drivers are working hard. It has got some ultimate pace, but they very, very wide there in turn 6 for Grosjean. And this is where they start carrying tremendous speed up over that flying crest and swing it in. And then it tightens right on the exit. There it is. And you downhill braking, which is always harder because you get a massive weight transfer onto the front axle as you're then trying to slow the car down and turn into that final corner, and quite a climb up to turn 1.
You feel giddy just watching from the onboards here. I don't know if the drivers feel a bit dizzy and giddy when they step out of the car, but these curves, they are brutal.
Yeah.
The minute you go on them, you can almost sense the vibrations going through the driver's body.
We're into Parc Fermé rules, of course, as soon as they roll out in qualifying. So they've got to have everything on them ready for the race. They'll all have new brakes, new skid blocks. That's why you're seeing the Ferrari sparking even more than usual, because they're in a situation now, and that obviously as the aerodynamic downforce takes over, it compresses the car, compresses the sidewall of the tyre, and however they've designed their suspension, and the car just ends up running along the ground for best aerodynamics.
Valtteri Bottas was on the front row here alongside Felipe Massa in 2014. He's ready to go. Lewis Hamilton should be ready to go as well. And if you weren't with us for FP3, you wouldn't have seen the brake failure to the front right disc that affected Lewis Hamilton. They fixed it, they put on new brake discs, new pads, and he should be okay, Martin. But I wondered to what effect in terms of car performance, because maybe there's a suspicion that things got a bit too hot in there. They might have to open things up and keep things a bit more cool, and that always goes with it a loss of performance.
And we have seen, of course, in qualifying here, Lewis into that, what is now turn 3, swapping ends, haven't we, on the brake pedal 2 years ago, I think it was. So he's had more than his fair share of dramas on the brakes around here. Kimi Räikkönen has been behind his teammate all weekend, not quite on his pace, missing a quarter of a second. And a good helicam shot there as well. It tends to flatten out the hills, though, and you can see the white line. There's the pit lane entry, just for good measure, and that is also where cars will start backing up later on if they're trying to find a bit of clear air, some space for their qualifying run.
We could get a very busy track at the sharp end of certainly the qualifying 1 session, and that is Romain Grosjean, I should say, that has gone off at turn 7.
Yeah.
And he's not the first to go off on that particular part of track this weekend.
Yep, turned in with his right rear on the curb, and just not enough grip, kept it out of the barriers just, unlike Verstappen on Friday. And yeah, sometimes the car will just turn in that hard to get on a white line. Watch it again now. Sometimes you just have to ease it in a little bit more.
Verstappen then carries on his way whilst Grosjean recovers from that incident, going well on the track. Verstappen's teammate Daniel Ricciardo with a 106.0. Sebastian Vettel has put in a couple of decent sectors as well. And Verstappen goes 4th fastest. We look to see Vettel's time into the 105s by some margin. So the 105.5, the early time to beat, and this is a lock-up coming up from Verstappen, I would imagine.
Very late turn in there, and the unloaded inside front tyre, and luckily you don't put too big a flat spot on them. Tell you, his time was very good. Magnussen's on a 1 minute 6.1 for Haas. That was a solid little first lap there for Kevin Magnussen.
Decent first sector from Esteban Ocon as well. He lost about 3/10 to the best middle sector time. Force India haven't showed huge one-lap pace so far this weekend, but Ocon has come out of the box here on a track that's now 42 degrees track temperature and warming up nicely, and has gone 3rd fastest overall. He'll be certainly very pleased with that one. Let's head down to Christian Horner on the Red Bull pit wall. Christian, time for the talking really to stop, and the drivers to do their thing out on the track. Are you looking realistically at one of your cars on the 2nd row, one on the 3rd row today, or do you feel you can go a bit better?
All things being equal, we're probably 5th and 6th, but it's a matter of nailing that lap in Q3, and obviously Lewis has got a penalty that want to try and capitalise on that as well. So, but first of all, you've got to get there.
We've seen Mercedes split their strategy, Christian. Hamilton on the ultra softs, Bottas on the super softs. Is it a clear picture for you guys as to which one you want to run?
For us, it is. It's going to be interesting to see what tyre choice there is in the next session, because that obviously will dictate what your start tyre is going to be. But the tyres are pretty tight here. You know, they're pretty close in time. There's not huge time loss between them.
And Christian, very short track. We're expecting lots of traffic problems. This is a huge headache this session for your race engineers. What sort of a gap are you looking to feed your cars into in terms of the cars in front? And Magnussen's got big suspension problems there. Just 2 seconds, Christian. Martin, big problems for Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, that'll be the curbs, the vibration on the curbs, and there you go. And of course, you're putting huge torque through the system at that point, and it's just basically ripped his rear suspension apart. Under traction, a little bit of curb in there for good measure, possibly weakened on the vibrating strips in the curbs into some of the other corners beforehand.
They are, Christian, they are brutal, these curbs, aren't they? Even though some have been reprofiled, especially after Max Verstappen was speaking out against them yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the argument is stay off them, but they're quite inviting, and there's lap time there if you get it right. So it's that fine line between going for the lap time and not writing your car off.
And just give us a sense, if you can, what's the minimum gap to the car in front that you need to be operating on so that you don't get affected by that car in front here?
I'd say 4 to 5 seconds is, what we're looking for on average to place our car behind another, starting a lap. But it's only a 1 minute 5 lap round here, so that's pretty tight.
Yeah, not easy when there's 20 cars on the track. Thanks, Christian. We'll be back with you in a little while. Kevin Magnussen started well, Martin, but you get the feeling that's his session.
Well, it depends if it's pulled out of the gearbox, for example, but if it's a wishbone or a pull rod failure that they can change reasonably quickly, they've got a half a chance of getting it back out. I bet it won't be perfectly set up, but it'll they might be able to get it back out on the racetrack. It'll be impressive if they do, I must say.
106.1, keep an eye on him whilst we ride on board then with Fernando Alonso. Turns in nicely. Now the bit that he really doesn't like, the straights, where he loses time race after race after race. 9th fastest for him, Stoffel Van Dorn. You can hear the car over the rumble strips as he makes his way round that final corner. Can he get faster? No, he can't. 13th fastest only for the Belgian.
It must be brilliant to drive those last few corners. I mean, they're really chucking the cars in. And unfortunately for the drivers, they can look a bit silly very quickly here with one small mistake in that penultimate corner. Hamilton on a 5 flat now on his ultra softs.
So that's the first of the new lap records set then for this session, a 105.0 for Lewis Hamilton. His teammate Valtteri Bottas a fairly long way back actually, 105.7, but Bottas on the super soft tyre. I was just about to say, Jolyon Palmer didn't get out in qualifying in Baku. Last time we saw him in qualifying, did get into Q2. That's got to be his minimum today.
They might be looking at his track limits there in turn 9, but he's been very close to Hülkenberg in some of the sessions with his lap time, at 3/10 off on this occasion.
This is Esteban Ocon.
Turned in very early to the last corner. Front hits the deck.
I didn't hit the curb in my first time lap to check if it's all okay. Which side, which corner? Left side, turn 9.
And just to add to a little bit of impatientness down at Force India, according to the Weybridge, Esteban Ocon, he's only just made his way back to the garage. Ted, down at Haas.
Yes, Grosjean has gone out again, but Magnussen's still in the garage. I'm not sure if I'm expecting to see him out again, but they are trying to fix that issue. As for a cut-off time, it's evident that Jolyon Palmer's going to have to go again. We thought around an 06.3 will see you very safely out of this session.
Well, if it does...
Or rather, into this session. Into the next session.
Into the next session. If it does, Kevin Magnussen will be very happy indeed for the 106.1. He was 7th in FP3 this morning. It was the young Dane, which was kind of the best of the rest, as it were.
Strange racetrack, isn't it, really? It's very short. As I said, 7 corners effectively, but I find it very engaging, actually, to watch the cars, to see the drivers hanging on to the absolute limit of grip around an outside of a corner where there's really no chance to recover the car if they get it wrong.
It's one of the tracks that, when they announced the regulation changes for this year, it's one of the tracks that we thought, well, that could be quite interesting just to see how much more physically demanding it's going to be. And Anthony Davidson saying even in the simulator it was quite a tiring experience. Yeah. And he's done a fair few laps. So on board with Romain Grosjean, who's already had one trip into the gravel, which might have given him a headache.
That was the corner I was telling you yesterday, where the drivers were so inconsistent. It's unsighted. You're very late on the brakes. This time, the back end will accept the corner entry speed and the speed of rate of change of his steering wheel. In she goes. That's a little bit wide.
And a few of the Haas and the 2 Saubers and the Williams and Lance Stroll taking advantage of a quiet track period at the moment.
So both of the Haas's then in the top 10. They might look a bit difficult. Well, they look very difficult to drive, I must say, but at least there is an ultimate lap time in them. And we see the Williams that seems to want to oversteer at any given opportunity.
That green on the graphic might look good for Lance Stroll, but it's not that good. It's only 4 100ths up in the first sector of a time that he needs to be on the safe side of the bottom 5. He's currently in that bottom 5, along with Wehrlein and Ericsson and Palmer and Carlos Sainz, who lost about half an hour of track running this morning with an engine problem where some of the software had to be reset. Get towards the end of the middle sector, and Stroll has a 10th in hand. But even so, Martin, still not enough for comfort.
And Kimi Räikkönen not feeling comfortable either in P11, going out again for Ferrari.
Yeah, as often happens, they go on the super soft tyre, then they come out for a second run on the ultra soft in Q1. Lance Stroll makes his way round the final corner, and he's lost a huge amount of time and does not make up any more places. Just riding on board into the first turn with him. It's been a handful all weekend long.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to put his power down and hang on at the back. And as Lance Stroll said to Damon in the interview early on in our show, you have good weekends, you have bad weekends, and this at the moment looks like it might be one of those bad weekends.
Came with a whole raft of upgrades to the car as well. I'm not quite sure they've rather worked the way that they wanted. Raikkonen on the cusp as well. Kimi around in 11th place at the moment because it's such a short lap. It's going to be very, very tight in terms of success or failure being decided by hundredths at times, not just tenths of a second. Carlos Sainz currently 16th fastest overall as he makes his way out of the final corner, and he can see the line ahead of him. The dash towards it brings him 3rd fastest overall. Kimi Räikkönen has just set the fastest middle sector time so far. So Sainz going well, Raikkonen going well, Van Dorn has been pushed down towards the bottom 5, as has Felipe Massa for Williams as well. Raikkonen, the car that Felipe Massa used to occupy for all those years at Ferrari, he gets to the line and goes 2nd fastest. The track's starting to rubber in, I wonder, and the lap time's starting to come tumbling down. Who's safe, who's not?
It might well be, but there's been a lot of action on the track with other qualifying sessions and some stunt drivers, some drifters. I think the track might be coming back to them now.
Only 13th for Nico Hülkenberg, who was on the front row last year. Only 15th for Jolyon Palmer, his teammate. Hülkenberg and Palmer separated by 0.2 of a second as we look down at Force India and Sergio Perez, who's asked for a helmet change in this session because he's got too much air coming through his visor, or maybe he said you can close up the vents, but just do something, please. Zach Brown watches on at the McLaren garage, and he'll see at the moment Stoffel Van Dorn, this man, down in the bottom 5 and with work to do.
Zach Brown confirming in our pre-quali show that Van Dorn will be in the McLaren next year.
Which is great for Stoffel Van Dorn that he stays in Formula 1. He will want, I'm sure, a car to which he can show the talents that won in the GP2 title just a little bit better. It's been a struggle, hasn't it, for team and for driver, which is his first full season in the sport. Personal best being set by the 2 Sauber drivers through the first sector on this their final lap. Van Dorn in that bottom 5 with them, and the 2 Williams all needing to up their pace a little bit. You can see there on your screen, Stoffel Van Dorn has a 10th to make up, at least in the final sector.
He's being more courteous with track limits than pretty much anybody else I've seen through turns 6 and 7.
The stewards are looking. Stoffel Van Dorn goes only 15th fastest, so he's right on the cusp. The stewards are looking at Palmer and Raikkonen for what I assume is an impeding incident. Pascal Wehrlein can't improve, the man who was 12th on the grid here last year and scored points. He's plumb last at the moment. Fernando Alonso was down in 13th, stays down in 13th, can't improve his pace either. Jolyon Palmer set a personal best for the first sector on his final flying lap, and we look now at Lance Stroll coming through the final couple of corners, fighting it for all his worth. It didn't look tidy through the final turn. Was it enough in terms of pace? No, he's not. Out of qualifying once again, Lance Stroll. He's been knocked out in Q1 at 4 of the last 5 races. His teammate Felipe Massa next to cross the line. Massa can't improve either. Disaster for Williams, who locked out the front row in 2014 here, and they're out, both cars, in Q1 in 2017. Hülkenberg can't improve his time either, but he might just be safe enough unless his teammate Jolyon Palmer can do something about it, and maybe others behind him. No, Palmer cannot improve his time. He's out in Q1 as well, and joins 2 Williams, 1 McLaren and 2 Saubers in taking an early rest in this qualifying session.
Yeah, isn't it extraordinary to say things like that? You know, a McLaren and 2 Williams out in Q1. It's just
It just doesn't seem, if you've watched Formula One for a few years or decades, it just doesn't seem a possible thing to say, does it? But such is what Formula One of today.
Yeah, so the McLaren in P15, Stoffel Van Dorn, he has...
Yeah, he's through.
He is just through. The bottom 5, of course. This is what happened to Felipe Massa.
Whatever they've changed on that Williams, it's upset the rear downforce, or something's going on with the back of the car. It looks aerodynamically unstable.
Well, last time the two Williams were both knocked out in Q1, Silverstone 2014.
Yeah, Stroll completely broke me in turn 6. Shouldn't have done that. He had plenty of time to let me by before. Understood, understood. We'll report.
Grosjean's through, 8th fastest overall. Will the stewards look at that?
I don't think so. Well, they might look at it, but I don't think they'll do anything.
So
Well,
Pascal Wehrlein, Marcus Ericsson, Lance Stroll, Felipe Massa and Jolyon Palmer. The 5 that are out. And in the week that Williams premiere the new film, the documentary, The Life of Sir Frank Williams, I think that's a qualifying performance that wouldn't make the director's cut.
all fall silent.
So, yeah, lots of traffic out there as expected, and yeah, Grosjean getting through, but it didn't start off easy for him. This was on the exit of 6 into 7. He loses the rear of the car, and a trip through the gravel for him, narrowly avoiding the barrier that Max Verstappen just tagged yesterday. So that was a good escape for him. Now, we already spoke about the traffic level, and this is just gives you an idea of how bad it can be. This is on board with Perez early on, cars getting out of his way, left, right, centre, and you're trying to remain focused from inside the car at this stage, but you can see 2 more in front of you as well, around turn 9. You're already losing downforce, remember, at this stage, and into the final corner. Yes, you pick up that toe on the exit, but the damage is done. So, yeah, we always expected this would be the case, and it was. A few drivers out there getting investigated as well for potential impeding, we understand. This was Magnussen on the exit of turn 1. He rides that yellow curb, but I don't think that was, by any stretch of the imagination, what happened, what caused the left rear to fail. But we did see on the approach to turn 3 the car nice and stable around the corner, had a good balance in the car, and then on the exit, that's where it all goes wrong. We saw Nico Rosberg, I think last year it was, a similar thing happen on the exit of turn 3. I think the curbs were slightly more aggressive then, perhaps, but yeah, interesting to see that the damage can be done possibly around turn 9 on the yellow curbs. We couldn't find that evidence, but that's my suspicion nevertheless. Now, Stroll really struggling with the balance of the car. Has been all week. You can see in turn 1, the rear just kick out on him as he tries to get on the power. And it's looked to me like the car has had a very strong front end all week. But looking at turn 6, now the car has quite a lot of understeer. So you head into this one, you see that he's turning, the car doesn't want to get in. And he's delayed, therefore, getting on the power. And again, the same story on turn 7. So a really tricky balance there for the Williams driver. And I think Massa is in the same situation. So they've struggled all week. Hopefully the speed will improve through the rest of qualifying.
Yeah, we can get to the bottom of that with the help of Paul di Resta, who's here with his Williams gear on and with his Williams hat on this weekend, rather than alongside us. But nevertheless, yeah, what was going on there? I mean, it's very, very unsettling, I suppose, for the team with the way things have gone in the past round here.
Yeah, it's a bit surprising. Normally it's a track you would come to, especially after Azerbaijan where the car was so strong, but just struggled to get the car working. Balance issues, it just seems out of balance. Getting the tyres to work, then, you know, if you're sliding, they kind of overheat, and it's just kind of been a roller coaster to there. Difficult day, a lot to do tomorrow, but I guess the weather can always be unpredictable here, so I guess the team would certainly want some rain and try and pick up some points from there, but it's more a shock, and I think understanding exactly what's going on, I think will only come with the analysis that you get after today.
Yeah, I can confirm as well, we've seen Kevin Magnussen's just walked past us, so he's out of his car and he is out of qualifying despite getting it out of Q1. He just confirmed, obviously, with that rear suspension failure that he suffered for going over those curbs. It just shows you can't afford to make a mistake in those sort of areas.
No, they're not. We saw a lot of damage yesterday. You can see that's costly for him because that car was looking very strong. I would say definitely a Q3 contender today. the Haas, but it's close out there, and you really have to rag these cars around here. It's the bravest will get through, and it's the fight at the top obviously we want to see, but around the guys getting into the final top 10 shootout is the crucial part of qualifying session, and the guys that do it will be happy. The guys that are out unhappy.
As with everywhere, I suppose it's risk reward with the amount of downforce, amount of wing that you run. We were noticing there in particular in the first sector, Red Bull and some of the midfield teams clearly must be running a little bit less wing because they're as quick as Mercedes and Ferrari in that first sector.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see how quick Verstappen, especially in the first sector. I mean, turn 1 has a massive bump in it. We know the Red Bull, the ride height, they run higher. Their suspension obviously working very well, but the deployment of all the energy store you've got there up to turn 3 is crucial.
Great stuff. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate your time. Let's get back upstairs.
So 2 weeks ago, we were in Baku, here in Spielberg, for this afternoon's qualifying for round 9 of the championship in 2017, and we've gone from the second slowest average cornering speed to the highest average cornering speed from one race to the next, 83 miles an hour in Baku to 108 miles an hour here in Austria. It's a massive change for the teams.
It is, but some of them are not corners, are they? Like that's turn 2 and it's flat outward, and so I think that's a bit misleading. What isn't misleading is we know that Mercedes have gone with a super soft on Hamilton's car. Presumably that'll be the tyres he is expected to start the race on. And according to the computer, if Bottas has indeed gone out, he has, he's on the Ultras.
And Sebastian Vettel's on the super soft as well.
Yeah.
So he's, actually, well, let's go down to Ted. Ted, it said, 2 seconds.
Just remember, potential race start set.
Computer taking a while to update here. Vettel on the Ultras, it was super soft marked up before.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm counting them out, and I'll count them back in here in the pit lane, Crofty. So we can see what Hamilton's going to try to do, and that's to go longer in the first stint of the race. Obviously, starting best position he can possibly get on the grid is 6th, and then end the race, do a contra strategy, end the race on the purple striped ultra soft tyres to do something different to everybody else. We were kind of expecting that, weren't we? So absolutely clear what they're doing. Just a quick shout out, if I can, Crofty, for Carlos Sainz, 4th quickest in Q1, ahead of both Ricciardo, Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas.
Makes you wonder why he wants to move teams.
Toro Rosso not too bad at all.
Absolutely. On board with Lewis Hamilton on the super soft tyre.
There's been, what, a couple of tenths really on average between the Ultras and the Supers, so it's not a big gap like it normally is.
It's just that grip off the line though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you don't want is to be losing a couple of places and find yourself right in the midst of a scrap around 8, 9 and 10 going into the first couple of corners.
Bit of a swapper on there in turn 7. Dialed it out. That sound when you're alongside the track there on the curbs is awful.
It's like a tuba symphonia. 104.8 for Lewis Hamilton, and the first lap times into the 1 minute 4s.
Not too shabby on supers, is it?
That'll do rather nicely.
That you're looking after for the race.
Yes, be aware, there could be a race set. We're taking a little bit of life out of them. While we watch Sebastian Vettel, in fact, we'll just delay it for the next 20 seconds or so. Vettel's going a little bit faster than Lewis Hamilton here, only by 3/100ths of a second on the ultra soft tyres, of course. Valtteri Bottas has just put in a very nice first sector time of a 16.5 on the ultra soft tyre. Only Hamilton so far going on to the super softs. Vettel crosses the line to second fastest by 2/100ths of a second.
Very wide in the last corner, momentarily. So yeah, pole was going to be mid-4s or something. Extraordinary.
Pole or winning qualifying. A few of you have tweeted in to say if Lewis was the fastest, does he get pole today? No, it's not credited as a pole position. He will have won qualifying, but he would start 6th if that was the case. Last turn for Valtteri Bottas. Riding on board, you hold your breath along with the driver, I'm sure. Goes quickest into the mid-104s, 104.6. Romain Grosjean out on the track. His teammate Kevin Magnussen did get through to Q2, but he's not taking part. We can hear from him now.
We're hearing a suspension issue for you. Can you expand?
No, that's all I know.
I mean, that's really frustrating. You were up in P6 in the third practice session. You're actually looking pretty good round here. I mean, difficult car to drive at this circuit, but getting some pace in there.
Yeah, we were looking good. So it's really frustrating not getting the whole qualifying. It's, I don't know, really unfortunate to break the rear suspension for nothing. You know, I presume there was some fault in the production. You know, I didn't hit anything, so it's just bad luck.
And what about tomorrow? Starting from P15 then?
I think so. I don't know what it will be, but yeah, I guess so.
Bad luck and good luck for tomorrow.
And of course you have to design the suspension to cope with the expected loads for the season. But you can't over-design them, otherwise the car's just too heavy. And then everything else needs to be even stronger again at that point. So they do put a pretty good safety factor in on critical items like suspension and brake components, for example.
Whatever has broken will be sent back, analysed, tested, and whilst they find the cause of it. Looming into view. Daniel Ricciardo with his teammate Max Verstappen going through turn 6, just a little bit behind him. The Red Bull sent out in tandem here at the Red Bull ring. And can they get into the 104s? No, mid 105 for Ricciardo. 6th fastest for him on board with Verstappen now. Has out-qualified Ricciardo at the last 4 races. Seems really smooth through that final corner. And it was faster than his teammate once again. 104.9 for Max Verstappen, goes 4th fastest ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat next. Here's Sainz, never started in the top 10 here. He's 8th fastest at the moment, his teammate Danny Kvyat. We pick up now Toro Rosso looking for their 100th top 10 start in their constructor history this weekend. They've got 1 car in the top 10, 1 car at number 11 at the moment. Plenty of time to do something about that for Danny Kvyat. Sergio Perez, they had a ERS problem with his car on Friday, which meant that the reserve driver, Alfonso Celis, lost a lot of time while the car was stuck in the garage, and then Perez, after missing FP1, took a bit of time to get up to speed. So he's a little bit behind in the development in terms of this weekend of other drivers, but he's in the top 10.
I can't help but feel we're going to hear more about suspension issues in tomorrow's Grand Prix. The cars are taking a right pounding, aren't they? And that's before they make a mistake and run particularly wide on the baguettes, as they're called.
Just wondering here, Martin, I'm looking at the track temperature, 38 degrees. It's gone down a little bit. Saw the Force Indias just weaving around, trying to get some temperature. Bottas did that time of a 104.6 after another build-up lap. It's such a short lap here. I wonder if it's a little risk policy of the teams to build in an extra warm-up lap into their qualifying program from now.
We have seen them do it, haven't we, then, in Baku, when there was no time left to do that. They all just popped an amazing lap time in anyway,
yeah.
Straight away.
It didn't make much sense, did it? Ricciardo with a 16.8.
Ricciardo's under pressure here. He needs a better lap than that. I can only assume it's a long way off his teammate, and I can only assume he had some kind of drama on the lap he did do. All the aerodynamic pieces flapping away like an old jumbo jet on a blustery day on takeoff.
It's a little while since I sat and watched a jumbo jet take off on a blustery day. Maybe I'll earmark that for the autumn. Daniel Ricciardo then needs to improve his time. Can he improve his time, and by how much? A little but not a lot. 10th of a second. He goes 7th fastest.
He's now got 2 hot laps on his race set.
Unless he can go a little bit faster if he comes out again. Ted, down to you.
We'll see. Ricciardo is being asked by his engineer whether he was happy with the previous lap. He's saying there's a little bit more time on the table, but they'll want a bit more than that to get ahead of Romain Grosjean, certainly at Red Bull. The shout for Fernando Alonso, as you can see, in the top 10 at the moment, even with the supposedly slightly slower engine than teammate Stoffel Van Dorn. Both McLarens, you can just see in the garage next to me, just hear them changing tyres. They're going to go out again. Not much in it, just a tenth or two, couple of tenths between Alonso and Van Dorn.
I wonder what they'll do with Ricciardo. It should be all right on a 153, but it's not unduly comfortable, and a set of tyres that done 2 hot laps. That'll compromise him in Q3 if they run him again.
Well, you'd imagine that certainly from Perez down, they're going to go out again. See, Hulkenberg's time could be key to all this. 1:05.7 from Hulkenberg, only 11th fastest. Certainly, if he'd have popped himself up in ahead of Perez, his former teammate, then that would have cued the stampede from the pit lane. It's touch and go, and would you want to send Ricciardo out, given that he's done 2 hot laps on that set?
Put a fresh set on, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
and try to get those into the race. The race start, of course, which I think is actually what you were saying there, Crofty, yeah. I was thinking that I saw the picture of Prost. That's all racing drivers. We cannot stay away from this business. Gerhard Berger's here, Niki Lauda, Damon Hill, Andy Davison. We all just hang around, don't we?
Just called Anthony Davidson an old racing driver.
I realised that as the words were coming out.
He's going to love you for that. Hey, he's not getting any younger, though, to be fair.
I didn't want to leave him out.
There's a whole load of great cars and drivers parading around the track here. Jean Alesi, Gerhard Berger, Tom Christensen, Hans-Joachim Stuck, Mark Webber. He's definitely part of the old racing driver. You can tell him I said that. And it's a bloke called Helmut Marko as well. All taking part in the parade tomorrow.
In a Porsche 917 that used to frighten the life out of the drivers back in the day. You probably still do.
And in amongst them, Brendan Hartley as well, who definitely isn't an old driver.
Jacques Villeneuve, David Coulthard, we're all here. We're all here. They can't get rid of us.
What else would you do on a Sunday afternoon?
Yeah.
I wish we could see the skies out of our commentary box. We can kind of see the roof of the stand at the moment, but it does look a little bit dark and gloomy in patches, and the forecast is that there might be a few showers in the area this afternoon. Now they're sending Sebastian Vettel out again here, Martin.
A fresh set of boots.
Is that just?
What's that?
Is that just to try and go a little bit faster, maybe take advantage of a better set of tyres for the start of the race tomorrow? They surely can't think that 104.8 is in danger. Ted, let's go down to you.
He saved a set, didn't he?
Yeah.
The 2 Ferraris along with Valtteri Bottas in Q1. So it is, we have seen this before. Just a quick thought on Esteban Ocon while you're down here. And he's gone out again after just changing some settings on his steering wheel. I don't know, we heard that on the team radio. I don't know whether that means that he was in the wrong settings in his first run in Q2 as well. But yeah, a little bit of pressure on Ocon, do you think, this weekend, given some of the backstory behind Force India this weekend, Crofty?
Yeah, he arrived at the track saying, well, it was 50-50 in Baku, and the team agree with me on that one. And then had to listen to Sergio Perez saying, well, it doesn't take a genius to work out what happened there. It was his fault, not mine, and he's got to learn. I think within the team, it's kind of 80-20 Ocon's fault to Sergio Perez, and that's probably about right.
Yeah, they're going to have to be firm with those two for the rest of the season. They're both ambitious. Perez probably feeling a bit under pressure from the young Frenchman, who's doing. They're both doing a great job. The car, every time they leave home now, they're in a car that should be top 6 at the end of a Grand Prix, and that'll need a bit of managing down the relationship between those two. So Vettel then gets a nice practice on his ultras, ready for Q3.
And Bottas and Hamilton coming out, as well as Romain Grosjean goes wide and ruins the lap at the final corner. And that's cost him dear. He's currently 6th fastest, but cost him any chance of improving on the lap time. And this is why.
Oh, the back end came head on as he launched it in to the downhill turning point there. Second time then in qualifying we've seen the back end of that Haas will not live with the rate of turn on the steering wheel that Romain demands.
So here is Esteban Ocon then. Out on the track, it's Esteban Ocon, out qualified by Sergio Perez in the last 5 races, but at least comes to a track that he has raced at in series before. He was in DTM here last year, but didn't have the best of times. I think he finished higher than 18th. He was 3rd in GP3 here, but track knowledge might just be a helping hand for him this weekend.
And still Vettel didn't beat Bottas's time then.
No. 1:04.7 for Sebastian Vettel, a 10th off. Ocon's got 2.5 tenths in hand through the first sector. That's just to try and get out of the bottom 5. He's currently in that bottom 5 with Magnussen and Kvyat, Van Dorn and Hulkenberg as well.
Of course, the top 10 all get an extra set of tyres for Q3, and that clearly eases the situation on tyre supply somewhat.
Valtteri Bottas is going ever faster still out in front with a 16.4 for the first sector. Ocon's lost time to the middle sector, but still has a little bit in hand. Has he got the grip in his tyres for these all-important final 2 corners? Pushing wide to the extremities of the track, and Ocon only 10th fastest. That is going to come under pressure. First man to cross the line after him will be his teammate Sergio Perez, who's currently 8th fastest overall. As he crosses the line, stays 8th fastest. Valtteri Bottas with a 104.3. Makes you wonder if we might even get into the 103s by the time that this session ends. Stoffel Van Dorn, only 12th fastest for McLaren. He's out of qualifying. You'll see the checkered flag being waved. Carlos Sainz never started in the top 10 here before. Doesn't improve on his time, stays 9th fastest. Behind him is teammate Danny Kvyat, trying to get out of this bottom 5 and put 2 Toro Rossos into Q3. He'll be next to cross the line, and as he does so, goes only 14th fastest. So Toro Rosso do have their 100th top 10 start, and it's with Carlos Sainz. Ricciardo 6th fastest, Hulkenberg only 11th fastest. It means Ocon stays in the top 10 by about 4/100ths of a second. Very close indeed as Force India get 2 cars into the top 10. Danny Kvyat misses out for Toro Rosso and will start 14th in this race, where, by the way, in the Austrian Grand Prix in the past, 6 times the man starting 14th has actually got onto the podium. Stranger things have happened. It might happen again. Van Dorn, we're riding on board with now 13th fastest, just behind his teammate Fernando Alonso, out-qualified by Alonso again, only by 1/10 of a second. Hulkenberg, 11th fastest, and Magnussen didn't take part in Q2.
I don't think McLaren will be too upset with 12th and 13th on the grid. Actually, I think they'll have a more competitive race car than that. They haven't got too far to go, have they, in qualifying, when they need a bit of extra power at the moment. But Valtteri Bottas is looking like the man to beat for pole position.
Certainly is. You wonder if this is the...
I think we definitely made some progress this weekend. You know, we'll keep working like this, and then putting all the pieces together, we're getting there.
Just wondering, Martin, if this is the highest average cornering speed of the season, does that back up the claim that the McLaren chassis is actually a very good chassis?
Yeah, it's not bad. It really is not a bad car at all. You can see that, the way it doesn't move coming off corners compared to others. Now, you could also argue that an underpowered car will always feel a little bit easier to drive off a corner, but that doesn't mean to say it's particularly underpowered at that point of the lap, or that the power delivery is good, or for example. So I think there's no doubt that it's a pretty tidy chassis McLaren have got there.
So Carlos Sainz takes the lead in the Toro Rosso qualifying head-to-head, 5-4 against Danny Kvyat now. Romain Grosjean is 5-4 up on his teammate Kevin Magnussen, who through no fault of his own couldn't take part in Q2. Both McLarens are out. Mark Temple and Fernando Alonso with a little debrief at the back of the garage. And Nico Hulkenberg for Renault completing the top 5, or the bottom 5, that don't make it through into Q3.
Okay, let's get the thoughts of Jolyon Palmer and both the Williams drivers all out in Q1 talking to Natalie.
It seems crazy to say to someone who was on the podium at the last race, you're starting from P18 today. A completely different beast, this car at this circuit.
Yeah, it's just tough for us this weekend. I think we've been trying to work on the balance and you know, improve the car, but I think we simply just, you know, we're just losing time in the high-speed corners compared to some of the other cars. So yeah, that's been the case so far. On the positive side, I think our long runs were better all weekend than our quali runs. So you know, that gives us some hope going into tomorrow. But for sure, hard day for the team.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Felipe, massively disappointing for you, both you guys, your teammate next to you here, P17 and P18. Astonishing to think that the Williams was front row lockout here in 2014. What was going wrong this weekend for you?
Yeah, we're struggling the whole weekend to make these tires work when they are new. So just struggling massively, and today was really tricky qualifying for me to make the tires work. It's really disappointed because, I mean, we're not supposed to be where we are, and we're supposed to be more in the front, fighting the proper way. So tomorrow is a different day, but and it's strange because with the old tires, long run, the car was behaving well yesterday, but not with the new tires. So we need to understand why.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Both cars seem to have struggled this weekend. P16 for you tomorrow. Can you give us an insight as to why?
No, I actually thought we were looking stronger this weekend, but yeah, today it seems to have gone away a little bit. It's really close. I think the whole field's tight here. It's like 7 corners, so 60-second lap, and yeah, for a few hundredths I'm out, and Nico's not far in. So it's just I don't know. That's it.
An incident between you and Kimi at turn 10 that's being investigated by the stewards. Can you tell us any more about that?
Yeah, I think I might have blocked him. I don't know. It was on the first run, and my engineer said Vettel's behind on a slow lap, and they said, "Oh, watch out for Kimi." I looked in the mirror, and Kimi's right there. So yeah, maybe I blocked him, but he's through. I'm not. That's it.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, the guys at FOM have kindly lent us some footage which shows that exact moment between Palmer and Raikkonen. Here he is coming up to turn 9. He got his teammate Vettel in front, and that's how you get out of the way. You see Vettel there on the right, but Palmer now in front. You can really see how compromised Kimi was. So, like Jolyon suspected, he did hold him up. Of course, it wasn't intentional. But this is certainly going to be reviewed after the session of Q3 has ended, and I don't think he's got anywhere how he can get out of this. I'll just look at that clip again for you at full speed, perhaps, and you can make up your own minds back at home. But for me, it's pretty clear to see that he's winding it up for his lap. Kimi's finishing his fast lap, and the two come together there, and you can clearly see Kimi backing out of that, and away goes Jolyon on his fast lap. So, you know, the rules are the rules, and you can't really argue with that. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's probably going to be coming down on Jolyon for that one.
So old Anthony Davidson thinks Jolyon Palmer is bang to rights on that one, Martin.
His mitigating circumstances, two Ferraris coming at the same time, but clearly he didn't get the full message on the radio. Don't know what they'll do with that. They might give him a penalty, but it's not quite as cut and dried as some that we see.
So the wind is getting up a bit here. At the moment, it's a nice headwind going down the main straight, and Max Verstappen is a man in a hurry to get on with things.
Waiting at the end of the pit lane with 45 seconds to go to the green light.
I wonder if he feels there's rain in the air.
Why would you want to send it down there? You lose tyre temperature and sit and wait for a minute. It gives them track position, gives him a nice clear track. And as you say, Crofty, is it because they think it might start spitting the rain?
See, if we were in the media centre, Martin, we could find out. We'd be right on top of the grandstand, and we'd have a beautiful view over the Styrian Hills. But sadly, we're not. We're in the commentary boxes and can't really see a huge amount.
Can't see any sky at all, actually, from here.
The sky disappears the minute they lock us into the box. The last 10 in a minute, he can see the sky. So both Red Bulls at the end of the pit lane, and the first cars to come out for Q3. Cue the standing ovation from the 10,000 Dutch fans. What an atmosphere they're giving.
Going to see this for a few years, aren't we?
Wait till we get to Spa, where it was like 50-50 last year, wasn't it? You know, Dutch fans, the rest of the world. I think it might be a bit more this year.
Wait till they've got half red and half orange T-shirts to wear.
Yeah, red and orange. Is that the way the Dutch fans want to wear their colours in the future?
So only a few of them are concerned about track position, spitting with rain, whatever it is. We've got 5 of them out there now.
Well, Ted, let's go down to you.
Yeah, here, Crofty.
Does it look like rain? Is the weather an explanation as to why the teams want to get out?
Well, I can't see behind me to the back of the circuit. So you've got the pit building in your way, and I can see over the media centre where it's nice blue sky and white wispy clouds. So I'm just wondering whether they're going to do 2 flying laps and 2 times 2 flying laps. And to do that, you've got to get out quickly. Try and get Christian Horner on the pit wall.
Well, let's go to Christian now. Christian, can you shed some light as to why you sent Max Verstappen out so early?
We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there's a bit of rain around, but there's a reason he's gone out early that you'll see as the session unfolds. So yeah, both Daniel and Max on slightly different strategies.
So you're going to do different run plans, presumably. Is that what you're saying, Christian?
Yeah. So they'll converge at the end of it, but both have got different quantities of tyres available to them.
Thanks ever so much, Christian. It's intriguing now. We'll certainly look out for that one. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas has the fastest of the first sector times so far, 10th ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, 3/10 ahead of Max Verstappen, and 4/10 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, over Verstappen having 3 sets of tyres, he can do 3 runs. Ricciardo had to use the extra set, of course, early on. It was a bit of a handful as we cut on board there, but to Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, so as the light turned green, his teammate was right behind him anyway.
Sorry, Kimi, I thought we'd get out before him.
Yeah, pace.
Yeah, okay, my mistake.
Kimi's behind Sergio Perez, who has been released onto the track behind the Force India. 104.4 from Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo with a 104.9. Bottas with a 104.2, so goes even faster than he managed in Q2. And Sebastian Vettel's on the charge with a sector to go.
A bit of an irony, isn't it, if Bottas causes Hamilton to be another place behind on the grid.
Yeah, what Mercedes want is Bottas 2 and Hamilton 1, I would assume. What they've got at the moment is Bottas 1, Vettel 2, Hamilton 3. And that is very bad news if you're Lewis Hamilton's side of the garage at Mercedes.
Yeah.
Because that would mean front row Bottas Vettel, and that would be a drop of 5 grid places from 3 in qualifying for Lewis Hamilton. That puts him right in the melee going into the first turn.
Lewis just finding his way on the ultra softs, of course. We know he did his Q2 runs on the supers, ready to do something a little bit different in the race. So you're clearly not getting the best out of those yet. We're talking about less than 2/10 of a second, of course, when we're talking about what a shambles that lap was.
Exactly, it's shocking.
But there's a bit more in there yet. That looks like a proper traffic jam.
Kimi Räikkönen hasn't out-qualified a teammate here since 2003 when he was on the front row. Might pick up a little toe here behind the Mercedes of Hamilton, goes 4th fastest ahead of Ricciardo, but once again behind his teammate Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, I don't know if he got traffic at the end of it. We didn't see whether it actually held him up or not, but he's half-second shy of Vettel's best time. And Verstappen then with 3 brand new sets of tyres. Oh, it's way too much curb there on turn 3. But it's like birthday and Christmas all in the same 10 minutes, actually, isn't it? A Formula 1 car, lovely racetrack, and 3 new sets of tyres. And spoiled.
Spoiled Verstappen, and Hamilton putting a little bit more heat through his front right tyre there as well. And this is Sebastian Vettel. Running ever so wide. People might say, well, the track limits are being abused here. No one's sticking to the track limits. You're not exactly picking up time, I'd imagine, there.
It's this corner, it's the penultimate one where they're really concerned you could gain a lot of time, but pretty much everybody momentarily is all 4 wheels off in the last corner.
5th fastest for Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton doesn't improve and stays 3rd quickest. Sergio Perez with 2 Force India cars in the top 10 is ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon. Carlos Sainz with the slowest of the 10 times so far.
So Hamilton looking at P8 on the grid at the moment with his penalty for the gearbox change. And that is not at all where he needs to be.
Ted, down to you.
So we're about to see, as everyone else comes into the pits, the likes of Bottas, we're about to see the second of the 3 Verstappen runs. He's just gone out on the second of his brand new sets of tyres. He lost time in turn 3 on that first run.
Yeah, he was told that He just clipped the curb at turn 3, and Max says, oh, I'm trying a different line. And was then advised I'd stick with the line that you used in Q2.
Yeah, of course, P8 on the grid and on the less grippy tyre as well, and on the less grippy side of the grid. I doubt there's much in it here, but 8th is not where Hamilton needs to be.
Need to get some of those drift cars to go and lay some more rubber down. You'll see lots of different tyre marks on this track, because there is quite a bit of entertainment for the fans, drifting being part of it.
And that's what generated the big oversteer, almost on the lock stops there, scooping that one up. An F1 car just doesn't have enough suspension compliance or travel to cope with that big yellow curve on the inside.
So it's Mercedes, Ferrari at the moment, as it often is in the top 3 on the grid. Nobody outside of those teams has been in the top 3, not just this year, but also in qualifying since Austria 2016 as well. Nico Hülkenberg was the last man to break into the territory occupied by the big 3 teams. Verstappen half a second off through the first 2 sectors. That's really nice watching the cars through turns 7 and 8.
He turns in from the curb here, look, and just launches it at the corner. And this is a cleaner lap for Verstappen.
It is at a faster lap from Verstappen, crosses the line. Only 6th fastest, and behind his teammates, Daniel Ricciardo.
2 sets of tyres down, and it hasn't really worked for young Max, has it?
Yeah, 2 out of 3 are bad. In terms of 8 bad, instead of 8 bad here.
So he had a bit of a moment at turn 1, he's shaking his head.
He kind of knows he's ruined it already.
He's barely got underway. So that's 2 errors, really, in 2 laps, 2 sets of tyres.
Is there a temptation when you know that, as Christian Horner said, you know, 5th and 6th, that would be about right for us here. But when you know that that's the pecking order, is there a temptation from a driver's perspective that you try and push a bit harder than the car will let you?
I think they're beyond that. But he fancies a run at Raikkonen. He fancies 4th on the grid, I think, with he pushes his, just pushes it out there. But it is easy to overdrive in qualifying, full stop, Crofty, it must be said. You try just a little bit too hard, and then, I don't know, somehow you're more aggressive on the brake pedal, you're more aggressive on the steering wheel, you start taking liberties on the curbs, and it all falls apart. So Max needs to sort of regroup now and go get the car back in the groove. He's not been in the groove on those 2 laps. The real, where the grip is, where the lap time comes from.
Well, he's into the pits. Ted Kravitz was already there.
Well, yeah, he's got to get back in and get those tyres changed, and whatever front wing change he's going to make quite quickly to make all this work. But I'm sure he will. They're keeping an eye on it, his engineers. Just a quick word for Romain Grosjean, Crofty and Martin. He's making this Haas work for him at long last throughout the weekend, especially after that little spin in across the gravel in Q1. Not so bad in the first sector. That new Ferrari engine in the back of that Haas, really delivering for them. Not bad at all, Romain.
7th here last year, and 7th as it stands at the moment, but will of course move up a place with Lewis Hamilton getting that 5-place grid penalty.
Ricciardo's Red Bull wagging its tail on the exit of turn 1, still carrying reasonable speed though. But he's down. It's not a personal best, cost him time. The trouble is, if you release from a corner like that and you're going slightly sideways, you take pain all the way to the next braking zone.
To the next braking zone comes Daniel Ricciardo. Used to be turn 3, now turn 4. So they've added one more corner number, shall we say, to this track.
Important lap out there for Lewis Hamilton, and Ricciardo's backed off on that lap. He's got time to go again if he wants to. He's going to meet a lot of cars on slow laps, though, the looks of it, when he does go again. So where are we?
We'll see who comes out of the pits now, because Ricciardo's coming around, as you can see, the final couple of corners, and he'll want to get this lap started before they release any more. Kimi Raikkonen is the last to be released on the track, and he's just come onto it now. On board with Lewis Hamilton. He's probably going to back off a little bit and ensure that he's got a nice gap to Raikkonen ahead of Ricciardo, ahead of Perez.
Very steady into the last corner of the warm-up lap to get best possible launch.
How's drivability now?
Not good.
Driver default B, 41 OK. Driver default Bravo, 41 OK.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? And you've got to put it on the steering wheel. So Hamilton then struggling like Ricciardo on the way out of the first sector, and is only a 16.6. Quite a bit off where he needed to be. It's 0.3 off fastest in the first sector. And again, it's reluctant to go in to turn 4. It's a horrible lap so far for Lewis Hamilton, and he's backed off.
Yeah, he's got time to start it again, and there's yellow flags in that second sector anyway. Hamilton never finished lower than second here. Will take that 5-place grid penalty this season. Has it all to do at the moment. He's starting 8th, and there's the Haas just stuck in the middle of the track, and that is going to upset a lot of people here.
So you sure we should keep going? I'm blocked, I'm stuck, guys. You want to solve, what do we do?
Well, if they can't get that going, Martin, that's it. The order's not going to change in qualifying. And look, Hamilton's coming into the pits. He will start 8th here, and into the gravel trap goes Daniel Ricciardo. Max Verstappen. Just looking at the side there, I couldn't see the yellow, but that is Verstappen going off into the gravel. And that was kind of a very fast movement in there on the outside
of 7. He got a oh, how did he keep that out of the barriers? Did he keep it out of the barrier? Yes, he did. And he got a lot of throttle on and just spun up the rear wheels. So it's all over out there now. It's almost like with Max, so that's 3 errors with 3 sets of tyres. Almost like, right, we're going to have 3 runs, but you're going to have to really get on with it.
Yeah.
And it's put him under pressure, as you were pointing out earlier on. So Lewis had already abandoned that lap before the yellows came out. So this was the first problem he had. As he hit the loud pedal, the back end came round on him. And then, there it is. And then when he got to the end of, not this straight, but the next one, the car was just reluctant to turn in to 4.
And this was Sebastian Vettel's struggles. He wasn't going any quicker either. So ahead of Hamilton, ahead of Vettel, that man there, Valtteri Bottas, takes his second pole in Formula 1. Mercedes are on pole once again here at the Red Bull Ring, and it's Valtteri Bottas with his second career pole position that has done it. So he will lead them away in Sunday's race. Delight for the Finn. Happiness for Sebastian Vettel alongside him on the front row, but the nearest title challenger to Vettel will start in P8. That makes it a very, very tough ask in tomorrow's race. In between them, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Grosjean, Perez. Perez out qualifying Esteban Ocon. It's 8-1 now in the order at Force India this year. Carlos Sainz stays in P10. It was all shaping up nicely to be the big barnstorming finish in qualifying there, and Grosjean's car just stranded on the track, kind of brought a halt to it all. I suppose if you're a Finnish fan these days, you've got one chance, you've got 2 chances of celebrating a pole. But I'm sure Sebastian Vettel will be the happiest man out there. That's gone his way, isn't it?
Yeah, so at least the Mercedes have got Bottas ahead of the 2 Ferraris. What can he do to control the race, control the pack, try and help Hamilton come through from his P8 grid slot? And the problem with down there is your chances of a tangle in the first lap are much, much higher than if you're, well, Hamilton would have started 3rd without his gearbox penalty. Bottas deserved that pole again.
Yeah.
Only 400s quicker than Vettel, but he made it work.
That's P1, Valtteri, P1. Good job. Yes! There it goes. Thank you.
He almost forgot himself there, didn't he?
Yes! Now what do I say? It's the 80th pole position for Mercedes in Formula 1. Sebastian Vettel, who's won twice already this year from second on the grid, I'm sure will be more than happy with the way that has turned out. Lewis Hamilton will join the top 3 for the interviews.
What a wonderful qualifying!
qualify, Valtteri Bottas on pole position. Was a spectacular lap. Valtteri, please, talk me through your lap. Was amazing. Less than 1/10 in front of Sebastian. Great job, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels good. You know, I really enjoy driving here in front of you guys. So thanks for the support. But enjoyed it today, and just car was getting better and better as the grip was coming up, and had decent lap in the end. Not quite perfect, but it was good enough.
Very well done. Was spectacular. First row, Sebastian. Very well. Good improvement, and then all for you, my friend. How was your lap?
Not quick enough. But I was very happy. The car was really good last qualifying. I was hoping for the last run, but then it was a bit of an anticlimax with the yellow flags. But yeah, very happy. It's a great track. It's a shame it's a bit short, but really enjoyable with a lot of high-speed corners. The car's been really phenomenal. So looking forward to tomorrow. Should be a good race.
Lewis! Look! They love you. They love you. There's no way. Tell me about your last try. First corner, maybe you lost a bit the car. How was the feeling on the car?
Well, firstly, congratulations to Valtteri. He did a fantastic job. He's been driving well all weekend, and obviously Sebastian's very quick this weekend. So happy to have been third. Of course, I would love to have improved my lap, but yeah, it just wasn't meant to be today.
Guys, sorry, Lewis comes here because Seb, I would like to understand. Now you have a good chance. You are in the first row. Maybe Lewis is a bit behind for the penalty. Can be good for tomorrow for you, no?
I will see. It's a long race, so a lot of things that can happen. I think we have to look after ourselves, do our own race. It will be a tough race with Valtteri. He's been quick all weekend, also yesterday, setting good pace. So we'll see. I think it should be a good race.
And Lewis, will be the aim catch this driver tomorrow or no? I mean, the red car, they are there, I think.
I'll do the best job I can. Obviously, I want to get up there and try and get a 1-2 with Valtteri. So I'll do the best job I can to get further up.
Maybe also the soft tires that you're going to start for tomorrow can be the key also of your race, no?
I have the super soft for tomorrow, so but I think it's generally a slower tire than what they are on, but it could go maybe longer. We'll see.
Good luck for you. And Valtteri, please, last chat, because today was amazing. I'm really happy for you. And tell me, which is the aim for tomorrow? Not easy, stay in front of Sebastian, but here you have a good chance. But you are outside on the start, and maybe can be.
I think, like Sebastian said, it should be an interesting, good fight tomorrow. But you know, this target is not less than winning, of course, for us. And I'm sure Lewis still has a good race ahead, a lot of time to come back and get good points for us as a team. And so I can't wait for tomorrow, honestly.
Best of luck, best of luck. Please, guys, I need an handshake with you both. You with Sebastian, handshake, please, my friend. Thank you so much. Great day.
Brave Sky Italia colleague, Davide Valsecchi, offering up the handshake, not taken. Fascinating stuff. All right, okay. Well done, Valtteri Bottas, though. Last time a Finn was on pole in Austria, Mika Häkkinen in 2000, and he went on to win the race. Let's get some reaction from Niki Lauda.
Well, Nicky, a bit of an anti-climax in the end, wasn't it? But still, you got Bottas on pole.
Good and bad, I would say. Bottas on pole, he deserved it. Vettel second, which is not bad. But Lewis troubles, and therefore tomorrow 3 and 6 is 9. 3 and 5 is 8. Is it 8?
I believe it's 8. My maths is terrible, but yeah, I believe it's 8. He's starting.
Doesn't matter anymore. It's 8 or 9. So he has to do a good job tomorrow. He has to work harder than normal.
He's trying a different tyre strategy. That could open some opportunities up later in the race, I guess.
No, we will try everything tomorrow to bring him up into the front, no question.
Okay, but Valtteri's really delivered, hasn't he? That's an excellent performance by him.
Fantastic result, everything perfect.
Thank you, Nicky.
And as the top three, as they stand on a Saturday pose for a photograph, remember a 5-place grid penalty for Lewis Hamilton means he'll start from down in 8th. All this to look forward to in the build-up to the race.
At what point did you think or even hope that the win was possible?
The engineer comes on the radio and said Lewis has got a problem with the headrest, and I was just like, this race couldn't get any more far-fetched.
the Dutch Grand Prix saw the debut of a car and engine that would go on to revolutionise the sport. I'm back at Zandvoort to find out what made it so special, along with its owner, a certain Mr. Adrian Newey.
Okay, so the details, in case you need reminding, the usual European times are on Sky Sports 1 as well tomorrow at Sky Sports F1 and available in ultra-high definition 12:30. The first test continues between England and South Africa from Lords. That's right now over on Sky Sports 2. England in a reasonably strong position there. But it is Valtteri Bottas denied a thrilling climax because of that late yellow flag. We'll discuss that when we come back. A second career pole position for Valtteri Bottas, an 80th for Mercedes. But that was rather ruined, that third qualifying session, by that late yellow flag. And off the back of it, our host of the interviews, Davide Valsecchi from Sky Italia, trying to organise a handshake, but Lewis wasn't having any of it. And there he is. They've just been analysing it behind us. Look, it might be a small thing. Poor old Davide. He was mortified, I think. But, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? It just shows you. Right now, would have been just as easy to shake it as not.
Well, it was the story going into the weekend, wasn't it? Well, how was this resolved? Was it water under the bridge? And you'd expect Lewis to be able to say, yeah, we've done that. And he did say, I think, you know, it's you know, he's satisfied that that Sebastian's apologised. But I mean, I can understand him not wanting to be forced into a handshake in public like that. I think he wants to do it in his own way, in his own time. As we were saying, Sebastian Vettel was saying he knows he messed up last time around. He hopes that time will be a healer in terms of their relationship. But right now, it's quite spiky, and I don't think any of us mind that as a neutral viewer. Okay, let's go down to Ant at the Sky Pad to have a look at Bottas's pole lap.
So someone not interested in the fight between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton was Valtteri Bottas, and he just did his own thing today and claimed pole position. Here he is on his lap into turn one. We saw lots of drivers touching the curb on the inside, and Valtteri did as well. It upset the rear, but look at this. He picks up the toe from this car in front all the way down the straight towards turn 3. Remember, no DRS on this part, but that gives him a nice slipstream in towards turn 3. On the exit of 3, the rear kicks out just again. He just collects it, and that would have lost him a little bit of time. So already you can see that on the driver's last go before those yellow flags, they did have more potential. Into turn 4, he just misses the apex. Just a bit of lock-up on the inside front. Pushes him a bit too wide on the exit. So not a perfect lap so far, but in turn 6, one of the most crucial corners on the circuit, he absolutely nails it. Into turn 7, again, nice and tight on the entry. Picks up the throttle ever so early, and he's keeping that rear in check all the way through. And now up the hill towards the final 2 corners into turn 9, he's monitoring the rear all the time there. Onto the curb, keeps it nice and tidy through 10, back on the power super early to finish the lap. It was a really nice second half of that lap, but there was definitely a bit more time to be gained, and it would have been so exciting to see who could have gone better in the end. I mean, we saw Lewis hit the curb even harder into turn 1. His lap was gone, but we don't know what Vettel or Bottas could have done. Could they have improved? The time was certainly there.
And we saw Max Verstappen actually keeping it out of the wall late on in Q3 there in front of the 10,000 Dutch fans that have travelled. So they start 5th and 6th, they finished. They'll start 4th and 5th, the Red Bull boys. They've been talking to Natalie.
So you start from P4 tomorrow, which is probably better than you expected?
Yeah, I think as good as we could expect. I mean, we look pretty close to Kimi, about a 10th off. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice to be you know, in that hunt. I started 4th in Bahrain, so it's my kind of equal best start of the year. 1 place extra for Lewis's penalty. So looking forward to the race. Pretty happy with how the session went. Would have been nice to close out that last lap, but yeah, there was a few yellow flags. So everyone's just trying to find the limit. As we've seen this year, it's not the first time people have gone off in Q3. I've had my fair share as well.
Would it have made a difference? Could you have improved on it?
Kimi was just in front of me, so he was in the same boat as me. He also had an opportunity to improve. And I think we were both up in our first sector, but then we caught the yellow. So, I mean, you could argue we both would have gone quicker and it would have stayed the same. But yeah, it would have been nice to have seen maybe a mid 1:04 as opposed to a high. But anyway, it was fun. Track's quick, grip's high, lap times are pretty quick today. So yeah, don't know what else to say.
Can you get on the podium tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, if I got on the top set from 10th, I think from 4th, the top 3 theoretically should be easier. Sounds like there might be a bit of rain coming around noon, so it's going to be an interesting race. I don't think it'll be that straightforward, and then obviously Lewis will be trying to come up through the ranks as well, so it's going to be exciting, I hope.
Good luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
Slightly dramatic moment at the end there, Max. You did well to keep it out of the wall. Tell us what happened.
Well, first of all, I arrived at turn 3, and then there was a yellow flag, so I couldn't open the DRS, which was, of course, unfortunate. So I was under my lap time, and then I lost 2.5 tenths on the straight, and then you still try to at least get a bit more out of it. And I was actually on a good way with the corners afterwards. But then, yeah, in turn 7, I think I just picked up a little bit too aggressive the throttle, so I lost the rear.
There's no such thing as too aggressive with you, is there? Not used to hearing you say that. No. So P5 tomorrow. Do you believe you can get both cars on the podium?
I'm not sure in terms of pace. I think a lot of things, they need to happen in front of us.
And they could, because, you know, the conditions are changing. We think there may be rain tomorrow, which I'm sure, yeah, I was going to say, I bet you're hoping for that.
No, absolutely. I mean, if there is a bit of a mix of condition, that's always good for us, hopefully. But yeah, we'll have to see tomorrow. I think in terms of race pace, yeah, maybe we can't keep up with Ferrari and Mercedes fully, but maybe with a good strategy, you never know.
Good luck tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Just to clear up, by the way, the handshake or the lack of handshake, we understand that we've seen a still that they did shake hands before the start of the interviews, but obviously weren't going to do it in front of the cameras when the cameras were rolling then. So, but someone's always watching, so I'm glad we've had that pointed out. Let's move on from that, talk about the Red Bull guys. Yeah, we were saying there, they're obviously running less wing than Ferrari and Mercedes to try and counter the power that they're going to need up that first sector.
Yeah, it's always very deceptive. You know, you can see on the speed track what speeds they're gaining by losing the drag from the wing. But I mean, the suspicion might be that the Red Bull is actually producing more downforce. They're not necessarily losing any grip that way. The car's good. I mean, that's the best they can do in the situation. They're not actually out for pole position. They're not going to get there. But they might be good for the race with less wing if it doesn't rain.
I think Max was chasing it a little bit today.
Yeah,
made a few errors, didn't he?
He had a few moments, didn't he? But I think he quits himself well. He gave an explanation as to why he pushed hard. He was down anyway. He knew it was down, and he will, as Natalie said, you know, he won't give up. He'll give it absolutely everything. And if he has to make up a massive deficit, that means taking risks, and he does.
Perez and Ocon will be closely matched tomorrow, but they're 8th and 9th, they finished there. But of course, with the grid penalty for Hamilton, they will be split, so we'll be right behind each other. That should be fascinating to watch. Let's hear from Sergio Perez.
So you qualified in P8, but you're promoted to P7 because of Lewis's penalty. How do you feel about that, starting the race from P7 tomorrow?
Oh, it's a great recovery for myself, you know. I've been struggling. I lost P1, then I had a big issue with the car in P2, so I had very little track time, and I was really far, you know, from, I mean, I would never thought that I was going to make it into Q3. It was an amazing recovery from the team. We put everything together, and the lap that I did in Q1 made the difference in my qualifying today, you know, because to be right there really quick on a single lap, I think it was a great result. In the end, I got the yellow flag from Grosjean. Unfortunately, I think I could have give a go to Grosjean, you know, for P7. But anyway, it's where we are. So hopefully tomorrow I can get Grosjean as soon as possible.
And how are things with your teammate? How important is it for the team and for both drivers to draw a line under what's happened and to actually get a strong double points finish for both of you?
Yeah, I think this is in the past. I spoke with the team. I think Esteban has done the same, and we all feel that Esteban has understood the issues. What happened in Canada, what happened in the last race. So I don't expect to have any more problems, and hopefully we can have a double finish tomorrow and from now on till the end of the year. Great, thank you.
What happened at the end of the session, or at least towards the end of the session there today, Roman?
I don't know. We went out on new tyres and our drivability issue, so we've done some switches in the car. But after the first corner, the guys asked me to slow down, and then I completely lost control of the gearbox and the clutch. So the car went in anti-stall in the hairpin and couldn't really unclutch anymore, so I had to stop the car there.
It's a strange situation, isn't it? Because you qualify P6, which is great. Your teammate down in P15, but you know, some reliability issues for you and the team. Not complete confidence in the car.
Yeah, we you know, it's still only 26 or 27 Grand Prix for the team, so it's a lot of things that we're still learning. I believe we're going to be fine on mine. I think it's just an electric connector that got disconnected, so nothing too crazy. I don't know what happened on Kevin. It's a shame. Suspension. It was very fast all weekend. So we're emulating each other to go faster and faster, and shows in result when we get everything to work properly, it's going well.
Okay, briefly, Damien, just before we go off ahead, Lewis starts on the super softs tomorrow from back in 8th. He had to try something a little bit different, did he, from the field?
Yeah, well, he knew he was going to be downgraded in his grid position, so the only way to get past people is to keep going longer when they come in for their pit stops, and he'll get track position that way. But, I mean, you know, there'll be a big gap, and he's going to have to get a good start, clean start. He's in the middle of the grid, got to be no trouble. It's very difficult for him. And maybe try and squeeze out a one-stop. We know Max made that work for him last year here. Yeah, I think it's almost, I mean, these tyres are so durable. I mean, they can go almost, you know, it's a one-stop on the ultra soft, and they've got to use a super soft, so it's almost certainly just going to be one stop.
Appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Here's the details then for tomorrow. As I said, we're back from 11:30, Sky Sports F1 and Sky Sports 1 all afternoon for you. Available in Ultra HD for the race itself, which gets underway at 1 p.m. So we were denied a thrilling climax. Nevertheless, it is Valtteri Bottas with the second pole of his career. Vettel on the front row. See you then. Bye-bye.
There, Valtteri Bottas takes his second pole in Formula 1.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1 Live on all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.